the intro song is kind of gaining on me. Took a few years.
It's
kind of
pretty
catchy
good.
now.
Yeah.
Pretty catchy.
With it.
Yeah.
That was written by a friend.
Yeah. In the show notes. Creds in the show notes. Oh, I missed you guys. I feel like it's been a while.
Welcome back, dude.
Yeah.
You're feeling okay?
Yeah. I was in Bangkok for the last week. Came back with the Bangkok blues in my tummy. It left a little seed in my tummy and wreaked some havoc. But
interesting word for it.
We're what is it? Bangkok's Revenge. It's probably more appropriate.
So you were there for a marketing conference?
Yeah, work conference. Man, going there for a conference is brutal on the travel.
Bangkok's Revenge. What about the Bangkok Boom Boom?
Okay. Yeah, I like that.
Sounds sexual.
Yeah, it's
an orifice.
It fits though.
Yeah, the halfway around the world business trips that are like 3.5 days are brutal.
Dude, so the flight to Thailand is like one of the worst flights you can do.
Yeah, we took a 12-hour and then a 7-hour. So, yeah, it's a long
19.
day.
Yeah,
Plus the layover. But we did layover in Tokyo and in Terminal 2. Amazing omakase.
Oh, you got sushi?
Oh yeah, like right in front of the chef. Amazing food. That made it worth it.
Cool.
For sure. Did a little Muay Thai there.
Did you?
Yeah, it was kind of like bougie Muay Thai. So in the St. Regis Hotel, the gym they have there, I walked in the first morning, and there's a ring. It's like a third of the size of a normal ring, but it's like a full blown ring. And I walk in and I'm like, whoa, they have everything here.
It's just like standard in a
behind
Thai.
the door, this like huge Thai man comes out and he's like, I teach you. And I was like, you'll hold pads for me right now? You're just like here waiting in case anyone wants to hit the pads? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, this is amazing. This is like my dream. I walk into a gym, there's a guy waiting to hold pads for you. So
was he impressed by your prowess?
Yeah, at first he's like, you train? I was like, nah. And then like after a few rounds, he's like, okay, let's go. And then he was yelling at me, screaming at me.
Because he's all bloody and shit?
Hitting back. It was great. It was good. I was sore for the first 2 days of the trip. But yeah, it was a good trip, productive.
What are what's like the Thai business environment? Are people like, because you do this conference in Vegas a lot.
Yeah, I've been to like some domestic ones in New York. And I mean, you don't see a lot of like Thai people there. It's usually just like in the downtown area at like a convention center that's usually attached to a mall because there's malls everywhere in Bangkok. Yeah, you get everywhere, people from Eastern Europe, all over Asia, China, Japan, Vietnam, all kinds of stuff. So for me, it was like meeting companies, people that I wouldn't normally meet at like a conference in Vegas or New York. And yeah, different type of networking, different types of companies.
What were you looking for out there?
Usually, I mean, I go to kind of like learn the unknown thing. Like I like meeting with people who do exactly what we do, other business owners, and just sharing. You know, I get a lot of good ideas from just sharing. Like, hey, what are you guys doing? What you guys done well?
And like, just to be clear, like in your line of work, that's pretty uncommon, right? People don't like to share where like the alpha is.
No, not at all. But like, you know, I think you just show a little vulnerability, share some stuff about your business, and like, oh, okay, it's gonna be that type of conversation. And it's funny, like there wasn't that many e-commerce brand owners there. We were one of the very few. And so I was looking to just learn more information, and then we were looking for affiliates to kind of promote our products. Yeah, we just hired like an affiliate manager a couple months ago, kind of just starting it out, seeing how it goes. And yeah, she did her thing and set up a bunch of meetings and crushed it. So we'll see if it turns out to be like a good channel to grow. But that was new and different. And I realized in these like Asian conferences, there's like varying degrees of like what you'd call good marketing. You know, there's like, I just want plain Jane, like buy ads to my products. And then, you know, you get like Russian, Chinese affiliates who are like, oh, I got traffic for you. I'm like, okay, well, what is it? Like,
what does that mean?
You don't want to know. I'm like, no, then never mind. You know, a lot of black hat stuff, like spamming SMS, spamming emails, all kinds of weird stuff once you go in these international countries that you got to avoid.
Steven, does this, you miss this world?
Sorry,
you're traumatized.
No. When you were talking, I realized like I forgot to close out like a position before I left the house, and I was just like, oh god.
So what's the protocol? Do you have to go? Or
No, I just did it on my phone. I think I accidentally just closed it. I probably just ate a lot of fees.
okay, but you're safe.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, I'm glad.
That was
How was last week? You guys have a good pod?
Yeah, we kind of like did a little irresponsibly long rehash. It was fun. Are those coming back, Steven?
Maybe.
Firm, maybe.
I've been. I think we're gonna do something in the Discord though.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna do a.
Well,
We're gonna
comment
do
on
a
the
group.
stream if you guys want that back, or like the stream. Shout out to the boys, get him back in the saddle. Where's Armand this week?
Armand's at a date with Destiny with Tony Robbins.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. He sent me a video of them going crazy at Tony Robbins, and he just says, "Who wants a headbutt?"
He's primed.
He's level 10,
Man.
10 T.
Well, we miss his energy, but he's gonna come back.
Oh,
with
he's gonna come back just.
reinvigorated.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And Date with Destiny's the long one. It's like a 6-day.
And every day is a full day. Like you're in there, no breaks.
He believes in full immersion, as in like he
Sounds
keeps
like
you
a
so
lot.
busy you don't have anything else to do except sleep.
So you've done maybe not Date with Destiny, but you've done
Yeah.
You have done Date with
Yeah,
Destiny.
we went for Armand's 30th birthday. We went to Australia and did it.
Holy shit,
Yeah, it's intense. You like rewire your brain.
man.
You
So
like
you get
do
like
these
a
exercises over and over and over again. You like identify these like subconscious like limiting beliefs, like things you might say. Some people say them out loud, like, "Oh, I'm so stressed today," or whatever. And then there's these things that you say unconsciously, and you
Just, like,
identify them.
patterns.
Yeah, you pull them out, and then you try to rewire them through like kind of like good versions of trauma, I'd say.
That is cool. I have a question for you. Like before Armand gets back, he'll have a lot of stuff. But for you, like because you've done this, do you get like a lasting benefit, or is it like in that moment you feel the benefit, and then shortly after you get a burst, and then it kind of like fades away?
Yeah, it's always like that. It's always like a curve, and then you level out higher than you were. And then you go again, and it's a curve, and you level out, but it's higher than you were before.
That's awesome.
It's kind of like training, like any sport. You might lose your skills, but you can pick it back up a lot quicker.
Yeah.
Like there are still things like even like physical movements. Like, Tony talks about making your move, or you just do these things to lock it in, like even like slowly clenching your fist. Like, and you can do to bring it back. So like he has this idea of peak state, like this, it's like a physical state of being, and you can kind of bring it back by just redoing those things. It's kind of like wired in your physiology
That's pretty cool.
to get back into that state. So yeah, you certainly keep it over time. Yeah. So he's going to come back with probably way too much energy.
I know we're gonna feel like
all right, guys, new plan. But yeah, we're excited to have him back next week.
yeah.
All right, everyone. Welcome to the Alfalfa podcast. We're live on YouTube like we are every Wednesday at 5 p.m. PST. Thanks for joining us in the chat. Steven, Sambo, Ben, Edmund. Ooh, Heba Junk. What's up? How are you guys? Thanks for joining the chat. Like the stream if you haven't already. It helps. Comment on the video too. If you got something to say, love to hear your feedback, your comments, and all that good stuff. All the links are at alfalfapod.com. And you know who we haven't given a shout out to? Do you have the leaderboard up for our collectibles by any chance?
don't.
Can you pull it up
Would
on
you
your
like me to
phone?
pull it up?
Yeah, do you mind? I'm just curious, like what the leaderboard's been looking like.
Dude, I haven't looked at that in a while.
I know, and I realize we haven't.
I know, being bad.
Bad
Throw
boys.
us a like while we're looking this up right now.
Oh, I don't even know where to find it.
What do you mean?
I think. Oh wait, I may have found it. Hold, please.
Yes, if you go to pods.media/alfalfa, you can collect the episodes.
Oh, it's still.
Was your guys'
Still Simmons.
Oh, he's
Simmons,
crushing it.
Simmons D.
Was last week the Bitcoin 100K episode since
We
it
hit it
happened live?
Yeah, we hit it on stream.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. I was like, I'm going to go collect that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then we immediately nuked, of course.
Ah,
But we're back. We're back. Above
Yeah.
100.
that wasn't a nuke.
Are we back though?
Nuke for
I don't know.
ants.
We're going to talk about this today. Where are we in the cycle? That's the title of the pod.
Yeah. What are you guys drinking before we get into it?
I'm pounding these salty crews. It's a boat beer.
A boat beer.
Says it on the
Good
can.
verb.
You guys are
Pounding them.
You guys are too deep already. Congrats.
Yeah, I'm a few deep. I have a
This is my third.
Modelo on the back burner as well,
Nice.
just in case. Diversify.
The beer during the pod is rough. I definitely get a little bloated. I definitely have to pee like a lot.
Nick's gonna have to be taking some.
I've graduated from electrolytes and saltines to a lime soda water and an adventurous Diet Coke.
Just happy you made it, dude. If this is gonna be like a Michael Jordan flu game, you're gonna put up 63
No, I
today.
feel 100% better than I did 24 hours
I'm
ago.
sad we went through the whistle pig.
Oh, don't worry.
Boss hog.
Wow, we should get some more. That was tasty.
It was tasty.
Let's give a shout out to our sponsor. So go to zbiotics.com/alfalfa. Check out the pre-alcohol Zbiotics. It's the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. Make it your first drink before drinking. Actually, heard some feedback last few days of friends that I forgot listened to the pod, and they were all like, "Yeah, I buy that probiotic thing that
Nice.
you recommend, and I drink it every time before drinking." They swear by it as well. I brought 4 out to Bangkok.
That doesn't sound like enough.
Huh? Well, 4 days. Was it
I think
enough?
you need 2 a day.
Yeah, I thought I was going to need it to. I'm waiting for the Bangkok Revenge probiotic that prevents whatever the hell was in my stomach. Make it the first drink so that the next day you don't feel crappy from all those previous drinks you had. I think it's a good ROI too. Cost of one drink before all those other drinks is worth it to save the next morning. So go to zbiotics.com/alfalfa, get 15% off your first purchase. They have a money back guarantee. So if you try it, doesn't work for you, they'll give you your money back. And thanks Zbiotics for being a lover and a fan of the pod.
That was good. Did you hear my ad read last week?
No, I didn't. I was trying to stream it on
I couldn't remember how I did.
I was on the airplane trying to set up a VPN so I could watch the stream on the way back.
You were trying.
Yeah.
You get points for trying.
Thanks.
We'll take it.
Had 19 hours. So all right, boys. So let's kick it off. Let's get into it. You want to pull up the graphic of the
Wait, I was supposed to load stuff?
well,
I
mean, you only had
hold on.
an hour.
Stand by. I literally said we don't have anything to show in the episode, and people were like, "No, I don't think so."
I don't know. It's right in front of you.
Well,
Figured out in 2 clicks.
I think I can click it. Wait, hold up. What do I do here?
Yeah, just zoom, enhance.
Oh, I gotta zoom and enhance this too.
Yeah.
Can I do the reverse pinch thing? Yes, I can.
That is laziness to the next level.
Yeah, look at that.
All right, guys. We've all seen this chart. This is the psychology of a market cycle. Where are we? Everyone pin the tail on the donkey.
Yeah, I feel like where are we is a great question. I'm guessing that we're going to have differing views on where we are. And I'm also guessing that we're going to have different approaches to identifying those views. Like, I think Nick, the algo, is going to come with some metrics maybe.
Maybe. I mean, my gut feel, so it's actually hard to read, but I think we're somewhere between belief and thrill. Belief is time to get fully invested. And what is thrill? I will be rich. Oh,
I will buy more on margin.
by more on margin, got to tell everyone to buy. I think we're between there.
Somewhere in between there sounds right.
Steven?
Yeah, I think we're at thrill.
You're at thrill.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's hard to say we're at thrill after the way this week went, but I think we will be in thrill next week.
Next week?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, like, do you guys think about what Bitcoin price looks like when we're in these moments? Like, because, like, what's the top one? Euphoria? Like, euphoric Bitcoin could be a wide range of things, right? It could be, like, between 150 or, like, maybe... Like,
I think it's going to be a lot lower than
well,
people
maybe it's,
think,
like, between
but
120 and...
I think we get 120.
250.
We're at thrill, and, like, euphoria, like, 140, and then...
It depends.
Salute.
Like, I'm
See you
definitely
later.
I'm definitely at complacency right now on my XRP long.
Every coin has a story in Steven's eyes. They're all individual
I
snowflakes.
definitely went through the I'm a genius, I'm going to be rich phase.
Well,
now I'm like, yeah, it's bouncing.
I
New
feel
leg
like
up.
you do live the curves a little sooner than everyone else.
Yeah, you're going to speed run this
Yeah,
stuff.
Oh, I should probably
He
sell
said
that
3 of these
position.
in the last 3 years.
All right, so I feel like everybody thinks we're at thrill.
So does that by default make us wrong if everyone thinks we're there?
I feel like if we asked the chat too, I feel like the chat would be like, "Oh yeah, we're between belief and thrill." Where do you think we are, chat?
Yeah.
Sambo thinks we're still in belief.
Like, here's a good question though: is there any chance that we're in euphoria now? Like today, is today euphoria? Because that's what we're all afraid of.
So at Euphoria it says we're all going to be rich. I do feel there's.
I mean,
a lot of
I
that.
was worried. I was definitely worried we were in euphoria when Bitcoin broke 100K and then like deviated. I was like, was that the top?
Man, there's so many. Okay, so before we get into the metrics, Nick, like
Right.
there's like narratives that are going on, right? Like, so the narratives are that, like, the main one for me is that, like, Bitcoin in particular, I just focus on that. Like, it has so many tailwinds in terms of like regulatory, government support, maybe like sovereign, maybe corporates coming in. Like, there's just so much to be bullish about that. Like, it's hard for that to be euphoric when like I don't think price has like parabolaed yet.
Yeah, like you could probably take each one of those tailwinds and say, okay, we priced in 90% of that one. But I think you go to some of them, like I think the end state would be like, are there sovereigns like accumulating it as like part of their reserves? To me, would be like the most bullish tailwind that if it happened, and it's pretty. I discount it like, I don't know, 10% probability now. I don't know what the rest of the market does, but
That what?
that like sovereigns will accumulate as like part of their reserves in this like game
You
theory,
think it's a 10% probability?
like, or 10% priced in. Sorry.
Oh, you think it's priced in 10%?
Yeah.
I think it's probably priced in more than that.
Probability wise,
Do we have any evidence of that now?
I mean, we're at like 30% plus odds of Bitcoin strategic reserve in first 100 days of office.
But is that the one where they just don't sell it? Like whatever the U.S. Marshals have, they're just like, oh, we're not going to sell it.
No. Strategic reserve is like you are literally accumulating.
Here's a couple $1 billion a year.
Bitcoin.
Go buy
Yeah.
some coins.
I mean, probably more.
20 billion.
Like, I think I love the game theory around the strategic reserve. I don't know if you guys have, Michael Saylor's been doing a lot of interviews. Obviously, all he does is he's just a professional podcast shiller now.
When he's sitting next to Dave Portnoy, like they're basically sitting on the same seat in front
Oh
of the same
God,
webcam.
dude,
I'm like, Jesus Christ.
the Portnoy interview actually made me almost want to sell my MicroStrategy because, like, did you see it?
I saw a screenshot of it, and I'm like, are
No,
they sitting
I
on their
watched
laps?
it. I watched
Portnoy's
it.
like, "Dog, explain Bitcoin to me. Like, I don't know what I'm talking about because I don't," which is accurate.
Did
And then, like-
Saylor give
and
one
then
of his
Saylor's
big
like,
size?
Oh my God, it's just like, imagine you're on a sports team, but you're not just watching. You're playing with Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Tiger Woods, and you get to be on the team and win with them. And I was just like, what?
It's like, are they purposely trying to dumb this down?
I was like, oh God. I'm like, what the fuck was that?
Oh man, but there's still so much FUD that's happening. I feel like there's a sufficient amount of non-believers still that makes me cautiously optimistic. Like, and actually not even cautiously. I'm still optimistic that, like, we're not at
Ben
euphoria.
Cohen has like this social risk score, and I think it's basically taking his own YouTube views and like mapping it over time, and it's still relatively
His
low.
social risk score is one of the most optimistic signs, I think.
What do you mean?
Like, it's low.
Yes.
I think the interesting thing about this cycle is it's the first cycle I've been a part of where everybody might be too bearish. Because, like, everybody has such mega PTSD.
Yes.
Like, it's very funny. Like, it's very funny that people were calling like Ethereum's not even at like all-time highs, and we're like a month out from like the election happening, and
And the president's acquiring a lot of ETH.
you're doing a strategic reserve, and people are like, "Oh God, I was at the top." It's like that's mega PTSD.
Okay, so I think I read this somewhere, but I've thought about it since. Like, Donald Trump has been pretty clear in his previous administration that, like, he uses the stock market's level as like a metric of success. So he's like trying to pump asset prices. And I think Bitcoin has like entered his Overton window of things that he's also trying to pump.
Did you see he gave a price target?
No.
Yeah, he's like, we're gonna make Bitcoin 150K first year. I was just like, oh, my
Jesus.
god.
That scares me. But yeah, he's financially incentivized too now. I feel like the whole family's just
Why does it scare
back.
you?
I don't know, because it's like
Because you have
too easy mode.
PTSD.
Yeah, I do.
I
Yeah.
told you in 2017 that the president of the United States was going to be Donald Trump. First of all, you'd be like,
Again?
again? Like, did he not leave?
Yeah. Why? Third term?
But if I was like, yeah, he's shilling Bitcoin to 150K, you'd be like, wow, that's so bearish. No, you'd be like, holy.
Yeah.
You would be like,
I mean,
euphoric.
Treasury pick good. SEC
Treasury pick
chair
good,
pick
SEC
good.
Yep.
mean,
Commerce
Yeah.
good.
Stars are aligning.
Everything good. All stars align there. I think the cycle chart is interesting because I think you can make the argument that a bunch of different assets are in different parts of this chart. Like, I think there's actually an argument you could make that memes, like Solana memes, are in complacency.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that this is the case, but like, it's a thought I've had recently. NFTs are just coming out of the
Hope.
depression.
Yeah.
Like, no, NFTs are like in disbelief.
Disbelief, yeah.
No, it's hope. A recovery. Well, we're in between.
I think it's disbelief. Well, no, because maybe it's disbelief and they have a
We're
leg
starting
down.
to believe.
It's
Like
disbelief into hope,
Yeah.
right? It's definitely not optimism yet for NFTs. You have people like me being like, should I sell my punk into this? And obviously the penguins, I think, are a different breed because they're getting their airdrop. And I was telling you guys before the pod that like all the penguins I fumbled are now worth like $1.5 million and have an airdrop.
It's a big fumble.
Oh, it was a big fumble. I bought them all for like 0.1 ETH. Sad.
Do you guys see yourselves participating in the next NFT cycle, if there is one? Like, if we are in
potentially
disbelief,
selling into one.
I just I can't get myself back into that.
I think that's okay. Like you definitely don't need to. Like there's no need to.
because like in a world where NFTs are pumping, like I also think that Bitcoin's higher, MicroStrategy's higher, Coinbase is higher. I can just like play it that way and not have to worry so much.
Yeah, if NFTs are pumping, it means everything is already pumped and people are so rich that they're just,
And ETH is
ETH is up.
good.
Yeah, ETH good.
ETH good.
I mean, hopefully.
Yeah.
God. But yeah, I mean, as far as the multiple cycles go, like DeFi coins, utility tokens, they're in a different part of the cycle.
Potentially optimism.
Maybe like early optimism.
Like stuff like Optimism, Lido, Uniswap, Athena.
Oh, sorry, I meant optimism stage of the market cycle.
no,
Like,
well,
this
no,
rally
no.
is real.
No, I didn't think you were talking about
Okay.
Optimism. That coin is trash.
Synthetics. It's my
Synthetics,
my
yeah.
coin of the cycle.
Like stuff like that is in Optimism, I think, verging on belief. So I think that stuff is actually lagging behind a little bit. We're like all over the place. Like AI coins are probably their own segment, and I feel like this is like emblematic of what's going to happen. I think like most people this cycle don't lose their money by getting like over invested and then blowing out and like a spectacular negative 90%. I think most people like end up losing their money just like getting chopped, because I think that Bitcoin is almost certainly in a super cycle. And I think alongside the Bitcoin super cycle, you have these other cycles that like are at different intervals, and people are like, it's almost like the worst environment possible, because like you're like sitting in a coin that's in disbelief or like depression, and it's right about to rally. And then you look over there and there's like meme coins in their euphoria phase, and you're like, fuck this, I'm selling my Lido, I'm buying all in whatever, insert meme coin. And then like meme coins dump like 60%, and then like Lido 2x's in a week, and you're like, god damn it.
So hold on, like help me. No cycles are the same, right? No two cycles are the same. But if I remember correctly, when I got in, it was like the DeFi cycle, and those things front ran the majors. Like those were so now they're lagging, it seems.
Yeah.
I think like I have like a majority of my fundos in Coinbase Robinhood, that strategy, and I kind of feel like that's in the belief area.
Yeah, I think Coinbase is way lower on the cheat sheet for sure.
I was thinking about starting to sell like around like 450, 500. Phase it out.
Yeah, we're going to 7, I think.
Yeah, I think that's about right.
I'm gonna stick to my target, 600.
Yeah.
600 was my target back when we were in.
But you're going to start selling at 600.
That was
I
like,
don't mean we're going to stop at 700. I'm just
Yeah.
saying we're going to go there.
yeah.
Okay.
Coin's a $1 trillion company for sure.
Before we continue, let's get some of the chat comments in here.
Yeah.
So let's see here. Sambo says Solana and Ethereum haven't even broke above the prior cycle peak. I think Solana.
For sure on market cap.
Market
basis,
cap, definitely.
Solana.
But yeah, ETH definitely hasn't. Poog Lagoon says peak in April, summer nuke, end of year 2025 pump. Tim agrees, second run at the end of next year. 3 words. What's up, man? Says we're in belief. He also says can't price in 2025 ETF flows. The wirehouses are just coming online and nation state buying size so much bigger than current market participants. How can that be priced in? Also adds pudgies to 100 ETH.
Yeah.
Damn, 3 words is a professional trader, and I feel like he's right on this one.
Tillier says expectations are high. Euphoria is way off. Let's see. Tim wants to know AI memes. Where are they?
Oh,
I have a feeling.
God. I worry that AI stuff is approaching, the kind of thrill euphoria.
I have
end
a
of the
feeling we're in
spectrum.
euphoria on AI coins, or maybe it's complacency because they probably have pulled back.
I go back and forth, man, because like
When I see one of these like frameworks, I forget the name of it. Eliza as like a trending GitHub repo. That's what like pulls me out of crypto and like just real world. I'm like, oh, that's meaningful.
Pretty rad. Yeah.
Yeah, like if I heard that just outside of crypto, I'd be like that's meaningful.
Yeah.
That's pretty
Yeah.
exciting.
So like a part of me is like, oh god, this is kind of euphoric, and then part of me is like, oh, this reminds me of DeFi summer, like fall, and at that point, shit was so frothy. But like we had like months of like mega retardation, and then it like died and just completely died before ETH even did anything. So you could see something like that here. It feels like ETH and ETH ecosystem is way lower. Maybe like the lowest stuff. Well, not the lowest stuff. I think NFTs are a lot lower.
Just
on
waking
the
up, it
market
feels like
cycle.
out of a deep slumber.
Yeah, like ETH is like in optimism, I think.
Yeah.
Like that's up, down,
Not
bad.
even. I don't
Everybody
know.
is in.
Yeah, maybe not even disbelief.
We might still be.
Wow.
Yeah, and like yeah, you might be setting up for this kind of like old school ETH late pump kind of thing. Maybe if that's the case, but it might be a good idea to TP some of your small cap shit that you're up bigly on, and maybe just buy some ETH, like slowly average it into ETH or something. You can kind of stay invested in the market, but like not do anything really dumb.
I have a question about metrics to look at. So I guess one of the pieces of euphoria and thrills, like people trading on margin, leveraging up. So what's the best metric to look at to see how levered the market is?
I mean,
Is like funding rates on futures or
yeah, I mean, like there's ways to kind of do this in an amateurish way. You
yeah,
can
just
look
give me
at-
like the 80-20 of it. I don't want to like.
yeah, like Velo data is really good. Coinalyze.
But
has
what
some
metric
stuff.
am I? I've seen Coinalyze before, but what metric am I trying to look for?
I mean, looking at the funding rates across exchanges, like
Okay.
you can look at like a funding rate heat map. I think CoinGlass has that, which just gives you like a snapshot, right? And you'll see periods where this thing's like all red. Like I was actually surprised by the dump this week. Like open interest was like a little high, but it wasn't crazy, and funding was like a little high, but it wasn't.
What's a little
crazy.
high for? Like, I think like what 40% is.
It
high.
depends on the coin.
Okay.
Or like 40% on like Pepe might not be that high.
No, but on
like
Bitcoin.
40% on Bitcoin is like kind of high.
Yeah.
But I don't even think we were there. I don't think we were even close.
So
to
what
there.
other metrics do you guys look at? Because I think there's some like pretty good ones that people have brought up in the past. Like if you say like Coinbase, the app is #1 downloaded. That's like a pretty good indicator.
Yeah, I got that one on here.
I mean, it's interesting you mentioned that actually, because I remember weeks ago we were talking about Phantom in the App Store as like the new indicator, maybe, and that was like the top.
Wait, did
of,
it
like-
get pretty high, like top 10 or?
It was top 5.
Yeah,
Oh, it was.
It may have even hit like 1
Yeah.
at some
Oh,
point
shit.
for some categories, and that was like kind of the top of
Adding
like
to the
Solana
list.
meme froth. So that ended up being, I think, kind of accurate. I feel like it'll be relatively accurate again. I think people are throwing stuff on why it's like different this time, but I think it's probably a good data point.
So that's a good one.
I feel like one good metric, it's not even like it's a personal metric, but hopefully if everyone's been setting themselves up correctly, like if you just hit your personal goals, targets, like that's a good reason. Like you're like, you don't need to make it all in this, in this one swing, but like if you hit it, and obviously the goals as much as possible, but
it's funny you bring that up because Carby was talking about that in the options channel. He's like, so at what point are you like, what's your goal here? You want a 2x, 4x? I was like, I don't really think that way, but I was thinking like maybe I should. Like maybe at some point you just reach a level and you're just like, I'm actually good here. I'm good here, and you de-risk.
you probably do that already. Like you probably have you're not using 100% of your net worth to do that. Like you have some that's like safer.
Don't
you?
I have a
Right?
ton that's safer,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I think like in the way that I approach things is usually like from like a bottoms up perspective where I'm thinking like, okay, so how much further do I think this investment in particular will go higher, and then how much could it go lower? And it's like a risk return on every individual asset. I don't think about my net wealth, and like I don't really think about it in those terms.
Yeah, I guess another way to look at it, we were talking about yesterday, like if Bitcoin's at 120 and you think it's going to 150, like do you really need to hold this like high volatile asset in order to achieve that next, whatever, 25%
Right.
or whatever it is? Probably not. Other metrics though, like I like to just take a look at the USDT dominance, like its market cap as a percentage of the total. And, when it gets very low, that's usually a sign
That everyone's bought in already.
Yeah. There's basically like, it's a version of cash positioning in the stock market. Like
Right.
cash positioning would be very low. And it would probably be better instead of just looking at a graph, like looking at, I guess like percentile of like historical periods, but I'm not going to do the math on that, but that'd be a better way of looking at it.
I mean, I like this metric, but I want to poke it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I was listening to the Compound talking about stonks, and they were saying that like there was so much money on the sidelines for the last like 18 months, right? And there's like so much money in money market accounts, and that's yielding like 5%. And what we saw maybe over that 18 months is no change.
Right.
No change.
Yeah.
And I think what's interesting is that like when those guys come off the sidelines and buy, there's also somebody who's like been riding it, who's coming back out and like to the sidelines.
That's a good point, because you probably need to measure this one with like how much leverage there is in the market, because there could be a reason to hold a bunch of stables if you're yielding whatever on it, like 20, 25%. I feel like all these individual ones are just like, none of them are going to be perfect, right? But like
Yeah.
if you get, I don't know, if you have 9 signals and 7 of them are green lit, you're like, okay.
What's the I'm guessing this is on your list, but it's like the Bitcoin metric, the MVRV.
MVRV
score.
equals 6.
I was just thinking about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So that's the measure of like profit, unrealized profit, right?
Yeah.
Sitting on chain. I think that's like one of the best ones that exists, honestly.
Yeah, that one's on there. I got a personal one. If I'm checking price more than 5 times a day, like just opening the app and being like, what is it?
A day?
Yeah, for
Wow,
me, that's
you
a
must
lot.
get so much stuff done.
Yeah.
So hold on, can we go back to the MVRV Z score, because I think this one actually like has been like very high correlation of being like identifying tops. Like where do we stand now, and how do we look on that?
It looks good.
I
Looks
think
good.
we made it like, I'm trying to remember visually, like maybe halfway up to
Like
6.
I think
It's
it's
like 6 is
6 is
the
toppy. Yeah.
And I think we made it halfway. If anyone in the chat knows it off the top of their head.
It's sort of like a trend line though, where I think it's like making lower highs over time, if I'm not mistaken.
It is.
Oh, now, you mean,
You
or
know, from previous cycles. Like I
Yeah.
don't know, previous cycle might have been 8 and
Oh,
7
right,
and
right.
6 and
With and the inevitable conclusion of that is that you do get super cycle because eventually just those swings, they just get so muted that
right?
a cycle becomes like indistinguishable from just like a normal pullback or random
Agree.
bear market. So
like a old school Bitcoin monthly RSI over 90, and I like Ben Cohen's risk levels.
Yeah.
Like they may not work this time, but it's just another data point.
Yeah, I
Um,
think it's a pretty good data point.
yeah,
I mean, you can kind of like do your own Ben Cohen risk levels just by like pulling out like the 200-week moving average on stuff. And when price is like really, this is very scientific, but when price is like really high above it, you go,
Yeah,
really high above that line
Yeah.
there. I should probably sell some stuff.
it's like 2
because
inches
it's
on the screen.
probably going to go down to that line at some point.
Or
I
you could pay us like $90 and just get the score.
I always
Whatever.
like it will always exist in the back of my mind how you both have been through multiple cycles, and you both maybe a couple weeks ago said like it will always retrace to the 200 week. Just it will eventually go there.
It has to. It's like literally a mathematical certainty. Unless price just accelerates to infinity.
Yeah.
Like it has to go
I was
back.
telling Eric yesterday before you got on the call, like a week before the election, I was just staring at the ETH chart and it was just sitting at the 200-week moving average. I was like, oh shit. I told myself when it hits this line, like I just shove whatever cash I have. But I was like, the election's next week and it's a binary like this thing could either go up or down. So I violated my own rule and did not buy.
Well, sucks to be a pussy.
I have a
Sure
question like
does.
that's like kind of like a zoomed out. I have a zoomed out question.
Yeah.
It's like on the cycle itself. Like, do you guys view Nick? I asked you this off air, but like, do you view this as like a cycle exists and everything follows the cycle? The cycle is the leader, or do you believe that there are leaders that sort of like guide the cycle? Like Bitcoin is sort of like the lead dog that guides the cycle, or like Nvidia is the lead dog that guides where the cycle's going, or is the cycle its own independent thing and everything plays within that?
It's always been Bitcoin, I think. It's
Definitely
always
this
been-
time.
Always been Bitcoin. I think the more interesting question that's a variant on what you're asking is like, what is the benchmark this cycle? Because although Bitcoin has led basically every cycle, like Bitcoin was not the benchmark last cycle. I mean, some people benchmarked against it, but like to me, the benchmark last cycle was Ethereum, and to me that was like a pretty obvious benchmark, and like everything, it was like a maybe this is like obvious like hindsight bias because I was right last cycle, but like to me it was like obvious that like ETH was going to torch Bitcoin, and so everything I invested in was under the the framework of like, will this outperform ETH? And if the answer is like no, or if the answer is like maybe, but not by a lot, but not by enough to justify like the volatility or the chance of being wrong, then it's just like, well, why buy that? And I think some people were suggesting, oh, it's going to be sold this cycle, but it's, to me, it's like back to Bitcoin. Like Bitcoin is my benchmark this cycle, and everything you're buying, you should be like charting against Bitcoin and being like, is this Bitcoin chart bullish? Because if it's not, then you're dumb. Just buy Bitcoin.
Right. I agree with you on that, and I agree. I mean, I like what you're saying. Another thought I have is that maybe the lead dog of like the investable universe is AI, and it's more like Nvidia aligned, and if Nvidia revenues keep just performing the way that they have been, because like the hyperscalers just keep buying and their capex just keeps growing, then maybe this cycle just keeps going. But
Yeah.
at the moment those stop, maybe the music stops.
What do you think
The whole
correlation
risk cycle
Yeah.
music, you mean?
So you just think Bitcoin is correlated to Nvidia in that this is all just a gigantic risk trade, and there's not actually like a whole lot of differentiation between these
Well,
assets.
I'm not really certain, but that's what I'm supposing. I'm like, that's what I'm hypothesizing here, is that like maybe the entire cycle is actually an AI led cycle, and like risk assets are following along with that.
I think it's an interesting idea. I think for me the main thing leading this cycle is basically like government, TradFi, regulatory everything, right? Because you have the impact of like a potential strategic Bitcoin reserve. You have the impact of what MicroStrategy is doing and the potential knock-on effects of that, not just on the Bitcoin price directly, but on the fact that like other people will copycat that, and then other corporations might buy it, and then you can have this kind of like, you know, positive reflexivity there. You have the new regulatory regime. You have all these coins that have been left for dead, catching bids. Like we talked about charting stuff against Bitcoin like 5 minutes ago, and if you pull up Bitcoin charts, like the strongest charts against Bitcoin right now, coins like Uniswap, Athena, Lido, what's the Ondo, which was just a complete scam token like 2 months ago, and now it's like the greatest thing since sliced bread, and it's up only mode. Like all this stuff is like a part of that regulatory trade. So I think a lot of that and where that shakes out ultimately is going to lead the cycle. Right now, everybody's like, oh, we have to reprice everything because there's a new probability. But then we're going to get to the point where it's like, okay, well, what's actually happening now? What are like the real data points? Like, are these things getting ETFs? Are there these positive regulatory developments like actually coming through from the SEC, or was this all just like hopium?
So have a real
that's
crypto
gonna be a big
czar
thing.
that's gonna maybe actually
We have an appointed crypto czar.
Yeah.
Oh God, I forgot about that. David Sack. Somebody tell Solana though. God.
It's not reacting. He might have to sell his bags. To
I
be
think he
crypto
sold
czar.
all of his bags.
Yeah, I think he
dude.
did it over the counter.
Can we talk about Solana for a second?
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the things that I feel like we didn't even mention that this week, but like there was a giant shakeout this week. We had the worst liquidations in a day since 2021.
As I was liquidating, I was watching the liquidations on my phone, and TradingView was like, "Oh my god!"
It was crazy. Like I was expecting a bullish December, and when you're bullish for a month, you often like will get like a kind of nasty shakeout at the beginning of the month, because when price expands to the upside, typically you need the large players that move price to fill their bags first, and the way they fill their bags is by stuff dumping and people panic selling or getting liquidated or forced sellers or whatever. But holy God, we dumped like more than I thought we would, given like my perception of how hot the environment was. Like I said, like things were a little heated, but like I've seen way dumber than what we were.
Way more euphoric.
Yeah, like I've seen way worse. So, you know, it caught me a little off guard, but it does look like things are cool right now. But one of the knock-on effects of this week is I took a step back because I moved into cash briefly on a lot of stuff and deleveraged to kind of see how stuff was like shaking out before going back on. And one of the positions that like I had on was like I had a very big Solana position on. I had some like Solana ecosystem plays like the memes. And I had been like pretty bullish on Solana. I know it was like a bit of like a consensus trade, and that made me like a little bit wary. But like oftentimes, like you see these coins perform well at like the starts of cycles, and they have like a drawdown.
Mm-hmm.
But then like when the cycle like really ramps up, like they keep doing well, and you just keep riding the strong coins. Man, like the Solana Bitcoin chart. I saw Don Alt posting about this because he's drawing these parallels between the Solana Bitcoin chart and the ETH Bitcoin chart. And we were just talking about the
same chart,
the market cycles chart, right? And when I saw the market cycles chart, I was like, like Solana Bitcoin could be like complacency on the market cycles chart. Like you could have a situation where like everybody is just like on this trade and we sort of get like a bump, but actually it's just like the complacency shoulder. And then Solana Bitcoin like basically pulls like an ETH. I mean, if you look at this chart here, I mean, it's.
Do you have it pulled up right now? Is this?
Do you have it pulled up? It looks worse, I think, if you put the moving averages on here. Is this a weekly chart? How do I use trading? How do I use TradingView? I don't have the indicators loaded on this.
Aren't you signed into your account?
Yeah. Why aren't they showing?
First time, huh?
Did I just turn them off? This is
It's
in
okay,
my
it's
home
your first
setup.
time, dude.
I found him.
Okay.
You don't trade much, dude. It's all good.
Yeah. I don't know. Like we have this situation here. We had this like strong pump, and we kind of ran the 2023 high, and then like ran the high and failed to sustain, and then we've made these kind of like progressively like weaker humps, and now we've kind of broken below the moving averages, and now we're kind of breaking down below this trend line. And God, dude, like if I pull up like an ETH BTC chart, it is very similar to what like ETH BTC looked like right before it dumped. Like you had this like mega pump, everybody's super happy. We run the high of the previous cycle's like complacency shoulder there, and then we just kind of, that's it. And that was down only for like, that was pain. And everybody was like, ETH is the best thing ever. All in ETH. Why do you even own any other coins? DeFi sucks. All these alts suck. I don't know. Like I think, I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen, but me personally, like I toned down my Solana portfolio a lot, especially because I looked at all these other coins that and how they're doing against Bitcoin, and there are coins with like way better Bitcoin charts. Like even if you want to stay in Solana, for example, right? Like the whiff chart against Bitcoin is actually way better than the Solana chart. So you might be better having like a much smaller position, but like having it be like dog whiff hat and kind of like accomplish the same thing. And I don't know, it kind of makes sense. Like this was all built on like this meme hype, and now the meme thunder has kind of been stolen a little bit by like the AI thing, and everybody's concerned with all the unlocks from FTX. Like Solana has like a lot of inflation. There's people dumping on you like all the time. Everybody was on this trade. It would kind of fit into the framework of like past cycles disappointments, right? Like things you thought were so that just really were not.
So how do you feel about owning Solana or Solana adjacent assets versus Bitcoin adjacent assets, higher beta Bitcoin, like MicroStrategy, for instance, MSTR style?
So because like I think it's like a Bitcoin cycle, we have this like adage where we say like, I forget the exact saying, but often people have like an idea, right? And then they use like a proxy for that idea instead of trading like the idea itself. This was actually a thing that got me hurt on Ethereum, because I was like, oh, I'm really, really bullish Bitcoin. ETH is going to go up more than Bitcoin, obviously. So I'll just be like really, really long ETH. And that wasn't correct. Actually, you should have just been long Bitcoin, which is the original thesis, which was correct. And then you got fancy by trying to do like a proxy for that trade, when you could have actually just long Bitcoin. And if you wanted more risk, you could have just like enhanced the position with like baby leverage or like options or something to get more, right? Which is, you know, one of the hard lessons I've learned in my life. Lesson number 500. But this question of like, what is Bitcoin beta, I think is like kind of interesting. Like obviously like MicroStrategy is Bitcoin beta. I think Bitcoin mining stocks are probably Bitcoin beta. But like, do you want to own those instead of MicroStrategy? Like, I don't know.
IBIT options.
Is Coinbase Bitcoin beta? Like Coinbase actually is shockingly like very well matched the return profile of Bitcoin. They're like the Coinbase Bitcoin ratio is just like kind of choppy and sideways. So they're moving like pretty well together.
I feel like Coinbase has dramatically outperformed it. No,
I guess it depends when you.
I was surprised when I thought that too, and I was surprised when I pulled up the chart and saw like kind of how choppy it was. Like if you pick a particular date where we got in, then yeah, it's doing pretty good. But I mean, what is Bitcoin up? Bitcoin's up like 4x since we bought Coinbase, and Coinbase is probably up 6x from when we bought it. So yeah, we bought it at a good time, but like there were multiple other periods where you could have bought it and like had a different result.
Yeah.
But for me, like the largest position I put on this week when I like kind of rearranged my portfolio, and like yesterday, unfortunately sold my a big chunk of my Peanut the squirrel bag the day before I got a Coinbase listing today.
R.I.P.
Oof.
So woke up to like a 40% candle, like no. But the reason I did that is because like I was taking some risk out of areas in my account where I was like, do I really have like high conviction in this thesis still, and moving it into other areas. So for me, a big trade that I put on recently has been Stacks. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Stacks.
STX.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, STX. Like Stacks, I kind of dodged the bullet on because I had a big position on last week, and then this weekend I was like, I don't like the way that this is looking. I'm gonna like sell it all at like $2.70, and it just nuked to $1.80. So that would have been
save.
yeah, huge save. And then I was just twapping it all week, kind of in that kind of low twos region. But Stacks is like really interesting to me because if you want to degen on Bitcoin, there's not like that much of Bitcoin beta. Like think about like all the quote unquote ETH beta there is. Now, was all of it ETH beta? No.
Right.
Most of it actually was just like ETH Destroyer and has been like ETH Destroyer, right? It's been a very dicey trade in the history of time trying to get this like ETH beta, quote unquote. Now, like the DeFi stuff, it turns out it is ETH beta, but last cycle it just nuked all your ETH. And like we thought that, the L2s are going to be ETH beta. Nope, turned out they just incinerated your ETH.
Yeah, this is a tough concept because if you look backwards, it's not indicative of what is going to happen going forwards.
Almost
And like
never.
like MSTR has dramatically outperformed Bitcoin. Will that continue to perform? I don't know, but I'm like fucking bullish. I'm really fucking bullish on it.
I mean, like your perspective's good if you plan on like rotating in and out of stuff. I'm more like I've kind of have my chips at play and like ride them until I feel like it's time to like sell them all. I'm gonna
You're a
like
bit longer term.
I'm not gonna like rotate out of my soul into DeFi. I just kind of have like the amounts that I like in each. The portfolio is like percentaged.
Yeah.
It seems like appropriately, and just let them all ride. And there's still some cash in case something pops up. That seems
Okay, sure, but
tantalizing
like
enough.
in defense of the Stacks trade, like I actually don't view this as a this month trade.
Okay.
Like I actually view this as a trade you could maybe hold for years.
It's an old Hal Press throwback, buying stacks over.
Oh, now Steven's out.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, Hal was very right on Stacks, and he
Yeah.
made a lot of money on that, I assume, if he sold.
He doesn't tweet much anymore. Might have
Yeah.
got washed out.
I don't know. What happened to Hal? Where are you?
Come back. It's bull market time.
I don't know. Like, actually, a lot of times there's a lot of alpha and just digging through ideas people had like a year ago or 6 months ago or last cycle. Because sometimes these ideas were like very, very good, but they weren't like timed correctly. And then they were just sort of forgotten. But somebody already did all the digging and they already had all the ideas and wrote it down in a thesis. And you read it and you're like, oh, yeah, it's pretty good. That's still applicable, actually. Like some numbers on Stacks, right? Like, so Stacks is what, like 4 billion? What's the market cap of Bitcoin? 2 trillion?
So Stacks is a Bitcoin DeFi protocol.
It's a Bitcoin layer 2.
Yeah,
It's the only Bitcoin layer 2 with a token, as far as I'm aware, or at least it's just like the absolute far and away leader in the Bitcoin layer 2 space. And like we are in like a Bitcoin world right now. It's a Bitcoin world, and then there's this other segment of the world where like everybody's in a knife fight, right, to try to become like whatever it is that is competing with Bitcoin. But like there are just some like really entrenched moats at the moment right now for Bitcoin. That is the way it is. And if you look at like Ethereum, so Ethereum is what, like 450 billion market cap, give or take a few billion. I think the total market cap of Ethereum L2s is probably in the 50s, like call it like 50 billion, 60 billion.
Okay. What Stacks? What'd you say?
4 billion, I think. So 4 billion.
Good upside.
So 50 billion to 450 billion is like 10. It's like a 12% of Ethereum's relative valuation. 4 billion to 2 trillion is like 0.2. Is that 0.25? So at 1 trillion, 4 billion is. Let's get the calculator out here. It's about like a 0.5%. So yeah, it's about 0.25%. So there's currently like a 40-to-1 difference in sort of relative valuation of like the Bitcoin L2 space versus the ETH L2 space. Now, I don't think you can just like run these numbers and say like, oh, that's going to go 1-to-1, because Bitcoin has this like culture that's different from Ethereum. Like Ethereum has like these
kind of like anti-layer 2.
Yeah, like people are just like, oh, I'm not going to stake my Bitcoin. I think that these type of people that buy Bitcoin, they enjoy like burying it in their backyard and not doing anything with it, right? But at the same time, like there are it's like trillions of dollars in capital in the Bitcoin ecosystem right now. And there's going to be like 4 trillion, 5 trillion, 10 trillion in that ecosystem like pretty soon.
Pretty
Makes
soon,
sense.
huh?
Stacks is coming out with their SBTC next week. They just had this little Nakamoto upgrade thing, which is like interesting because Bitcoin L2s have been problematic because there's this like non-instantaneous like settlement like we have in like ETH L2s. Like they're settling like 10 minutes with like the block time, and it just like opened up all these like attack vectors, and it was very bad. But now that's going to be down to like, or maybe it already is down to like 5 seconds or something like that. So it's doable. And
Fundamental
like,
analysis,
people
Steven.
can do, but yes. But like, it's not just fundamental. Like the chart looks good. The Bitcoin chart looks good. It's like a chart that tends to like oscillate up and down, and it's like the very bottom of that oscillation right now. So I don't know. It's a obviously a gamble for me, like any other altcoin is, but it's become like one of my largest positions this week because like the prices were so good. And
I'll say from my standpoint, I'm like listening to you, and I don't own any stacks. First of all, where do you buy this stuff? Can you buy it on Coinbase, or do you have to buy it on?
I mean, I
Bybit?
would be shocked if it's not on Coinbase. It's
Okay.
a pretty big coin.
Okay, so like the way I'm sort of seeing this in my mind's eye is that you have like Bitcoin laggards, like the miners are like Bitcoin laggards, and you're playing like a catch up trade. I think Stacks falls into that category for me. It's like a Bitcoin catch up trade, and I think the way that you're describing it sounds like there's a much higher upside on Stacks than there is on like Bitcoin mining.
Yeah, and I would argue there's like a better risk reward on like MicroStrategy than Bitcoin mining. Maybe you do or don't agree with that. Maybe there are some kind of players in the mining space that don't fit into that. But like the miner trade for me has gotten like kind of meh, like as I've grown more enamored with the MicroStrategy idea. But yeah, God, like I'm just thinking of like Bitcoin. I'm thinking of Coinbase. I'm thinking of like AI, crypto.
You have a price target for Bitcoin in the next like end of 2025?
It's so dependent on the reserve, man. Like I think we could go to 300K next year if things get pretty bullish.
Like if they establish a reserve that actually starts acquiring it?
Yeah, but like I can also see an argument where we top out at like 120. You know, I don't know if this is consensus. Maybe it's not consensus. Maybe I just think that way. Sometimes I'm lost with what is like my bubble and what everybody else thinks, but I don't know. Like the setup looks pretty good for like another kind of like sell in May, go away type thing, and maybe like a run it back in the fall. Because I do still think it's going to get like a little bit stupid. I feel pretty bullish on Bitcoin right now. I think we're going at least to like 110K, but probably like 120K in the next
So
month or
the
so.
the last two cycles were 2.9 years long, so just under 3 years long if you measure from the bottom to the next peak. We're currently at 2 years,
2 years,
since the bottom. The ROI from the bottom in 2017 was 100x. The ROI from the bottom in 2021 was 20x, and we're currently at a 6x, I think. Yeah.
So where does like a 10x take us?
Probably to like, what is it, 150, 160?
100.
Like if you kind of believe in just like the diminishing returns.
Yeah.
But I don't know, maybe the strategic reserve is one of those things that could just like bust it open.
Of course.
But
if you just like,
I'm not going to bet the whole farm
if
on
you use that as a proxy, let's say we go to 180, what is performing best? I think MicroStrategy outperforms Bitcoin. I think the miners outperform Bitcoin, but underperform MicroStrategy.
Okay.
I think Stacks probably outperforms all of them
Think so?
on a percentage basis. Like
On a
what Steven's
market cap.
describing here is like such a low market cap that this thing can just fucking fly.
Look, I think Stacks can go to 100 billion in a bull market. Like Solana's like 100 billion right now, and it's like kind of looking like a meh
But for
protocol
me,
at the moment.
I get it. Like we're like swinging for grand slams on Stacks. Like if Bitcoin goes to 180K, I'd just rather take the sure thing and juice it up with options than play the Stacks. That's my personal style.
That's your style. I like your strategy. Anything else on like where we are in the market before we move on? seems like all of us are fairly still bullish, kind of 3/4 of the way.
I mean,
if
have
you
you
will.
guys in the spirit of what I just said, like have you guys changed your mind on anything recently?
Like price target wise, like when I'm exiting, or just like
No, I think more just so like what are you convicted in?
I think mine is becoming more concrete, and I think people have kind of like been able to read between the tea leaves on what I'm about now, which is like I don't need to do any shit coining. Like I'm just like pretty over it, and I am able to achieve triple digit returns, maybe four digit percent returns, using like TradFi options, and this to me is like way more high conviction. I can put real money at it and not have to buy things that are like animals and shit, and like I just like prefer that style. So like for me, it's like so clearly like off-chain investing.
Can we give the audience a little tidbit then? Because I'm sure there's people out there being like, hey, wait a minute. How do I take a Bitcoin ETF and give it the return profile of an altcoin?
So yeah, for followers along, I think what I still like now, like I've already achieved these returns on Coinbase, Robinhood, etc. But like what I still like now is MSTR. I just put in 6 figures in the last like 72 hours. I like Coinbase still from here. I still hold all the Robinhood that I bought initially. I haven't sold a share of it. I prefer that type of play
you
over
sub miners.
Yes. Yes.
Wait, are you playing options on those, or are you just basically like, oh well, these are just kind of beta to?
No, I'm playing options always because options are more capital efficient, and
So by like just straight leaps on Coinbase, or something fancier.
no, it's typically like if I want to go long something, it's typically a 3-leg strategy. So long a call, short a ridiculous out of the money call, and short a put that's out of the money. And in that case, the trade ends up being like sometimes it pays you. Sometimes it pays you to get the upside. And
Yeah.
this to me is like the best way.
You're covered up if it goes to the moon and like hits your short call.
Yes.
Your short call and your short put fund your long call.
Yes.
Very efficient.
And like if you're bullish on this stuff, the short put leg, you'd be happy to buy the dip. Like Coinbase or like I don't know, MSTR for instance, I just put this on recently. So like 250 strike, I'm short.
You'd happy to buy it there.
Yeah, Coinbase MSTR's at 410. I'm at 250. Like I'll buy the shares. I'll buy the shares at 250. It's
Yeah,
fine.
I have a similar strategy on with my Coinbase stock right now. I was trying to figure out what exactly I put on, but I took my coin balance and then basically for risking like 10%, I was going to plan on scaling into like 30%, relative to the size of my base position because I'm pretty bullish. But I went long the December 25 420 call and then sold the 230 puts. So similar strategy.
Yes.
Kind of using that short leg to fund the
Yes,
long leg.
baby. He's back. He's in.
Yeah. I mean, this isn't free money because you are basically like
You gotta have cash. You gotta have cash to buy the shares. If
you're long you're long a lot of delta on both of those.
Yeah, you're on the hook
way.
to buy at 230. But like if you like the stock, you'd be happy to buy at 230. Like
What if you don't have any cash left to buy the
You
stock
roll
at
it.
230?
well, I don't know that there's any much to roll, but like
Asking for a friend.
close it out.
So I think this is where like nuance comes into play. So there's like a couple ways I look at this trade. One is like if you're trying to like just capture premium, it's different. Like if you actually want to own the stock, that's much easier. So like I would want to own, in your case, Coinbase at 230. So like I would have the cash ready to buy that. Now my brokerage doesn't force me to apply that cash to that leg of the trade. It only applies it on a risk adjusted basis. So like 230 strike put is probably a low probability event. So like it only forces me to apply like a tenth of the cash available to that trade. But I would want to own it there anyways. So would be
I
fine.
mean, 230 a year out is not. It's not crazy that I could go there a year out.
Well, I'm
for
not
all
looking at the
time.
implied volatility right now. I'm not
Yeah.
looking at the percentage out of the money or whatever. But like, I'm guessing that's probably like an 85% probability or something that you expire out of the money.
Yeah, but because I mean, I know it happens. I was just trying to
Yeah.
explore for the audience, but like in my case, because basically like my exposure is it's like a small percentage of the total value of the position. Like if push comes to shove, like I have to liquidate some of the position to cover that. But like this is what we're talking about. We're like making the stock more like an altcoin. It's like, yeah, when it goes up, it'll go up more. And when it goes down, you will lose more than you you would have if you just held it. But like there's no free lunch. Like if you want to juice your volatility and your gains to the upside, like you have to also accept what happens on the down move if you're wrong.
That's well said. Yeah, there is no free lunch. But I think what's interesting too is like I play these things not only for this like synthetic long that we were describing. I try to capture premium as well. So like I'll sell a 230 strike that you just sold, but I'll do it for this Friday, which is like way lower probability than like a year
And keep
from
doing
now.
that every week.
And I keep
and
doing it every
re-upping.
week. And why I bring up this notion of like how much margin they apply to you, I think it's important when you're like capturing the premium, because it's like if they don't sort of like force me to hold any cash for that position, I'm capturing the premium every week, and this thing's like 50% out of the money. Like it's not going to hit in 3 days.
Right. As far as like as belief in anything, I mean, like if I look at my portfolio, it's still like out of just the coins, it's still like 88% Bitcoin, ETH, Solana. And then there's a bunch of Dino DeFi in there, filling out the rest.
Where's
and
your AI?
It's sub 1%.
Oh.
And then,
Rookie
but then if
numbers,
you like
man.
take the notional value of like the Coinbase calls, the miner calls, kind of like the miner calls, they do have this like little AI lottery ticket, AI
Yes.
infrastructure lottery ticket potentially coming,
Hut.
where they're just really good at generating efficient energy.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping something like that develops. So yeah, there's a little lottery ticket there, I guess. I'm trying to think.
God, my hut leaps are a fumble.
Why?
My hut leaps have so much money.
Oh, because you sold them.
I
Yeah,
did. Well, they were way fucking down. At one point, I sold them and they went way down. I'm like, I'm so smart. But now they're like way up.
I bought them, watched them go all the way down, and they're back up. But
That was like a good example of like when I like analyze a chart really, really well, but it was like a monthly chart and I don't have patience. Sad.
Yeah.
Many such cases.
So anyway, if you like, even like the notional value of those shares, then like all of it's in Bitcoin, ETH, Solana, Coinbase, some miners, like 99.8%.
I wonder how common this is. I would like be curious to know, folks in the chat, like how much they're playing like sort of these like majors plays versus the true shit coins. Because I've just like grown weary. I'm like too old for this shit, dude. I'm 40. I can't be doing shit coins. Like I just can't do it. But I wonder if like what people's
I think that's
allocations
the
look like.
majority.
Maybe.
I think it's pretty simple. Like you get in, you're like, Bitcoin, I might be able to double up, but like, what can I 100x? We're gonna talk about gambling later.
Shout out to the Gem Hunters channel.
Yeah, they're the opposite of what you're describing.
There's goodies in there.
Oh, the Gem Hunters thread in the Discord is unbelievable. If anybody's listening to this and you're like kind of a degenerate and you're the guy who's like sitting here being like, why are they telling me to buy Solana?
You just
why
tell
are they
me.
telling me to buy
Yeah.
MicroStrategy? What's gonna 100x? Like what the hell, man? I need my fix. You need to be in the Discord in this channel because people are buying complete dog shit, and some of it is actually turning into gold.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, you've had some good calls in there too.
it's fun to see. People are winning, and we love to see it. That channel is very, very early to the whole AI meme craze and been printing.
Yeah, these are like fucking crypto natives, dude. These
They get it.
guys are fucking right into the veins.
I feel like their hunches are gonna immediately be 80% better than like what you might find on TikTok,
No doubt.
or whatever, wherever people find these things.
And then like the Discords is good too because you throw stuff out there and like somebody immediately might be like, oh no, that's a rug, and then that's it. And like everybody knows, and you move on with your
Thanks.
life. Whereas like if you're like alone, you can like trick yourself into stuff, and like, so crowdsourcing all the information and everything it's really nice.
Yeah. Let's go from rugs to other existential threats.
Can I
crypto.
take a bathroom break?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks, Dad. I'm not gonna make it. There's no
Sure.
chance I make it.
Can we keep talking or?
Yeah, no, don't worry about me.
We're gonna talk about Willow. So prime your brain. All right, Eric. Let's talk about this one. So this made some news. So Google announced they developed a quantum computing chip. It's actual physical chip. They developed it, and yeah, I guess it survives a problem that would take normal 0-1 computers, longer than the universe has existed. Apparently, it solved it in 5 minutes. And we've talked about on this podcast before that like one of the biggest threats to crypto is quantum computing. Crypto lives on encryption.
Mm-hmm.
I think people forget that part. And yeah, I don't know. Our precious seed phrases could be at threat. Did you look into this at all? Like, have you been paying attention to any of the quantum computing developments?
Yes. So I've just been intrigued by quantum computing for a while, but just on a very surface level, trying to understand what they're even talking about,
Yeah.
right? And you sort of just mentioned it, where it's like a traditional computer is a series of zeros and ones, and those things create what we compute
Right.
based on a series of zeros and ones. And the quantum computer is different because you can have a spectrum within the 0 or the 1.
Was it called qubits or
A
something?
qubit, yeah.
okay.
Instead of having bits, you have qubits, and these qubits can be aligned in any variety between the spectrum of 0 and 1 simultaneously, allowing you to do like way more computation in a shorter amount of time. And that's as basically as far as I've gotten in terms of my knowledge. Clearly, none of us are experts in the field, but we followed along with how people have talked about the threat of quantum affecting encryption as we know it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think people have to remember, like, crypto is the first thing that comes to mind, but everything would be at risk. Like, every website uses the same
Traditional banks.
level of encryption, like your traditional bank logins. Anywhere you put your credit card in, any form you fill out, any website you go to uses the same level of encryption. So I would be much more worried about like traditional banking and finance and just commerce in general if this were the case.
So I know Steven actually has quite a bit of knowledge on this, but like my limited understanding is that while the quantum computer is very good at like solving a complex problem, the problem has to be discrete.
Like specific?
Specific. It
Right.
has to be a specific problem that's solving, because like you have to align the qubits in the specific spectrum, like along the gradient. Every qubit has to be aligned between 0 and 1 perfectly to solve the problem, which is like a very hard thing to do.
Right. And I think there's also just like physics limitations. Like these things have to operate at negative 100 degrees Fahrenheit in order to like operate efficiently. Like ideally it would be up in space, where it's cold enough for these things to operate.
We're cracking Bitcoin in space.
You're cracking snacks up on the podcast. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm sure listeners are going to
Yeah,
enjoy
just
this very much.
ASMR, chew right
Yeah.
into chew right
Really
on me,
couldn't
baby.
hold out another half hour to have
I walked by and saw these cookies staring at me.
That's how you know it's holiday season in the office. Get all these gifts in.
God. So good.
Put the cookie down.
Hold on, let's reprompt Steven. So Steven, you're familiar with Willow and everything. Like, I think here's a good prompt. Like, maybe even a year ago or less, we thought that we were like 15 years ahead of quantum computing, before quantum would like ever become a real tangible threat to our beloved encryption, particularly on crypto. It seems like that timeline has like accelerated, right? Like we are now what Willow has done has like now put this very firmly on our radar.
I think this is good because like, at the same time there's quantum computing, there's encryption technology that can advance as well, and maybe that kicks things in motion.
You're looking at me like you want me to talk, and I'm still chewing a cookie.
Yeah, I told you, put the cookie down, dude. Like,
I'm sorry, it's so good.
It's like Peter Griffin. Like,
Oh, I have no self-control. I don't know. The scariest thing about the encryption to me, like, what do they do with like Satoshi's coins?
assuming that they could just, I don't know, quantum computers don't seem to like be a brute force type of technique. I don't know what they would do, but
oh, I disagree.
they would use it to brute force.
Isn't that like what you would? Okay, so
I don't know.
Satoshi's coins are weird because I think it's like this old address format where like like people know what the public key is,
Right.
which I don't think is like a thing.
So
in
that's
current
that's
Bitcoin
the
paradigm.
key difference is that they can brute force because they already know sort of like what to solve for.
It's the
Oh,
sickest,
shit.
it's like the sickest honeypot like of all time. Like there's just like a thing sitting there. It's just like guess this code and you get like how many billions is it worth right now?
So
don't know.
many. So many.
Yeah.
Like does Satoshi have 1% of the
I mean,
supply?
it's so much that if you started moving the coins, like I don't know, could you even sell them fast enough where they would be
Oh
worth
my
the
god! Like
nominal?
if Satoshi's, somebody should just sell a service where like the second Satoshi's coins move, you just sell
liquidate
everything in your whole
Yeah.
portfolio. Like if I should probably set up that automation. That's like the ultimate. Could you imagine? Like you wake up one day and somebody's like, Satoshi's coins are moving. Everything is zero. It's just like pandemonium. And that's just sitting. It's crazy that you can get just what is it? It's probably like $20 billion. I'm guessing. Just guessing. It's probably $20 billion.
But the second you move it, it
You
turns
just
to $2 billion
guess.
or something. Yeah, I don't know.
People can't sell that fast though. Yeah, I mean, you just send it to buy. I mean, you can't like market dump it. There's like that. You would literally send the price to zero before you.
Yeah.
So I think like there had been commentary that like it would take millions of years to brute force the SHA 256 or the Erixa algorithms or whatever. And I think when you know the public key, I think that actually that number goes way down. And now that we got quantum that can like go direct towards a very specific problem, that number goes way down.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an expert in this field, unlike Adam Cochran, but
This guy just lives in your head. It's like, non-stop. No one even knows who he is.
He won't stop until Adam Cochran is Hal Prest and just like off the radar.
But my general impression is that this is like a lot worse than like all the people on Twitter being like, "Oh, it doesn't matter. You need like 1 million qubits." What like, it's a lot worse than those people are saying, but it's also not like a clear and present danger. It's like somewhere in between, but not that much. I was like wondering if the dump the other day was because of this.
Could have been.
It makes like rational sense. Like if you think there's suddenly like a 1% chance that all of crypto is worth zero, kind of makes sense that you're like, well,
Also, your JP
on the
Morgan
one hand
login.
it's worth like 10 million. On the other hand, it's 1%. Do the EV.
So
Like,
I
it's
also like looked at while I was like researching the quantum ways to break it. There's like you can also encrypt with like greater encryption and sort of protect yourself.
Yeah.
And there's like formats that people can upgrade to, which are like pretty straightforward. They're like basically called like lattice based, which makes it much harder for like the quantum computer to figure out what's going on. And like, I think the biggest issue there is just like getting everybody to upgrade
To
together.
yeah, it would take
Fork
a while.
together.
Yeah, but
It's something like Bitcoin.
but that would
It'll
take,
take
like
like 4 or 5 years,
a
probably.
couple
to fork.
years.
Yeah.
But like, I don't think quantum's gonna break it before then. So
you
that's
got good
fine.
till 2025. But yeah, I mean, there's great good things that could come from it. You know, pure
it's-
abundancy.
It's not like this is like a new problem.
No.
People have been talking about this since day one, as far as I know. So
Guys,
Yeah.
just start selling reselling SSL certs You know, like everyone's gonna have to. Every website has an SSL cert they have to purchase.
Yeah, it's like
What is that? Secure.
Yeah, secure socket layer. Like it's turns your HTTP to HTTPS.
Yeah, people worried about crypto. Like the whole world would be on fire.
Totally.
It'd be like the least of
And
our
I'd
worries.
imagine like if Google solves it, it's not like there's probably some hardware limitations to be able to replicate this thing.
I kind of wish we had like on this pod like our like Friedberg, but for tech, like for tech focused,
'Cause
and
none
like
of us exactly know what we're talking
yeah,
about.
none of us know what we're talking about with quantum, but like I don't even know like what problems quantum computing is gonna actually solve. And maybe that's the cool thing. It's
I
like
think you could simulate the entire universe, right?
God,
and like
you just reminded me about. You remember Rigetti?
no.
Oh, we were talking about Rigetti during the superconductor. It was like this, like turned into like kind of like a meme superconductor.
Yeah.
Stonk for a day, Rigetti spaghetti.
Oh my gosh, I do. Oh, it's
what was
a
it
stock.
like
Yeah,
RGT?
I do remember that now.
No. What is it? I
I
have
do
to look at
remember
this
that
chart.
now. And
Oh, there it is. RGTI. I haven't looked at this chart in a while. Oh my god! What?
what?
No! Holy
What a candle!
No! Oh my!
What did it move
God,
from
what?
to?
My Rigettis were so much now.
My Rigetti.
Wait, what happened?
What do you mean? What happened?
Quantum computing.
happened. What do you mean? What happened?
What? No, this happened like 3 weeks ago.
Someone knew.
Someone knew.
Guys, when was the superconductor thing? That was like, okay, this was the superconductor bump here, I think.
Probably the higher one.
Yeah, here. August, right. This was it. We were talking about this, peaked at like 280. Yeah, it's like 740 now. This thing has gone up.
Do you still
Holy
hold
cow.
this?
No.
Do you
I
have this stock?
No, I sold it.
Obviously.
Wait.
Who would hold this?
Wait,
what
what?
the hell? Yo, it's up 1,000% since the election, basically. Look, since October. Why? I
We're
have so
sitting
many
here-
questions.
We're sitting here talking about Bitcoin.
Oh my god, this is the funniest chart I've ever seen. This is like Ripple eat your heart out. Holy cow.
How do you think this? How do you think this chart's gonna end?
It ends at $6,000 clearly.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Extrapolate.
Yeah, of course.
Damn, that's funny. I don't know why that came into my brain. Like I literally have not looked
I
at that
forgot
chart
about
for
that.
2
Wow.
years
I forgot about that
or
ticker.
whatever. Oh, well, hopefully somebody out there bought Rigetti during.
Just forgot about it.
Yeah, just forgot about it during the superconductor episode.
So there, I mean, I don't even know the tickers anymore, but like I run scans sometimes to see what the best performing things are, and for the last week or two, it had been these quantum computing stocks.
Damn.
I don't remember the tickers off the top of my head, but this type of pump doesn't end well. You don't buy this kind of thing.
Yeah, like ChatGPT was the AI moment. It like brought it to become real, where you could actually use it, and maybe this is like still more in the hype train
Yes.
phase. Okay.
I think we have to focus more on whatever this is.
When is the quantum proof layer 1 token launch?
Oh yeah, somebody's probably already raised for that.
Probably next week. Probably by Friday.
Yeah,
This
it's
thing.
quantum proof.
Yeah, quantum proof level encryption. You guys want to talk about online gambling or Mangione?
Let's talk about Mangione.
You want to talk about Mangione?
Mangione.
The paisan.
Real quick.
Yeah.
This is gonna be a quick one.
Yeah.
Quick pop.
Just
Okay.
a quick pop.
Okay.
Luigi.
So Luigi,
Yeah.
not the meme coin, which I hear is doing very well.
Jesus Christ.
What's the prompt here? Like prompted good.
So I'll read Steven's prompt.
I have
So-
a prompt.
Yeah.
Oh. Nice.
Everyone's aware of Luigi Mangione. He's the assumed United Healthcare CEO assassin. Did you guys watch that video, by the way?
They
In
have
full?
they have a video
Of
of
the murder?
him murdering.
Yeah.
I did.
Oh, I would
unfortunately.
never watch that.
It's not bloody or gory. It's
I just don't like watching people
Yeah,
die.
it's-
dude.
Okay.
I hate that shit.
Ew.
So Mangione's manifesto was a declaration of war, and your prompt was, "Is violence justified here? If not here, then when?" So let's try to keep it somewhat scoped, a little bit. His manifesto. First of all, word count. I don't know if it's a manifesto.
Wait, hold up. Was his
level.
actual manifesto released?
I don't know. Someone dropped in the Discord. Sounded like him.
I thought Feach put it in the Discord. I read whatever Feach wrote. Or shared.
Shared.
Sorry.
Yeah, he wrote it. Yeah.
Sorry, Feach.
No, I just thought I saw some people online today being like, release the manifesto. Why are you hiding it from us?
Oh, well, I might have read the wrong thing.
I don't know. Maybe somebody leaked a page. That sometimes
Yeah, it was
happens.
definitely on like an archive type decentralized server where it couldn't be taken down.
Okay, so let's talk about Luigi real quick because, dude, somebody wrote this thread on Twitter
It's a
that
good
was
thread.
kind of interesting, actually. Where is it? Oh yeah, it was called like "The Killer Is You."
There's a great like line.
He was in the AI programming, Bali, Tim Urban, Teal, anti-modern architecture. He's fit, big eyebrows, elite. Like, if you go through this guy's thing, it like sounds like he could just be like a guy hanging out in the politics channel of the Alfalfa Discord, and like he's phenomenally wealthy. Apparently, his family, like the whole thing is like kind of weird. Honestly, it's very strange. But
Not like a Ted K.
Ivy League kid.
Well, hold on. Ted K was
graduation.
also a Ivy League kid,
Oh, you're right.
valedictorian. Like they do have similarities here.
Okay.
But I feel like Ted wouldn't have been into like
I think I have
Tim
more the
Urban,
mugshot in my
you
head.
Andrew Huberman. Do you think
Oh,
you
right,
know?
right, and yeah, okay.
He's basically like in the kind of like chronically online podcast bro manosphere, like that like Huberman world.
That's what your take is. Okay.
No, like but no, he was.
I know he was, but that's not even the focus that I have. But that's interesting, I guess.
It's like interesting, like how like he could have just been a guy like we go out to men's night with.
Agreed.
He would have fit
Totally
right
agree.
in with the conversations.
Yeah. Totally.
It's
That weirded you out? Does that shock you, I guess?
Yeah, because you're used to like this happening, and then there's just like there's something deranged backstory or this or like oh okay, it makes sense.
It's
But
like a recluse weirdo kind of guy.
it's just weird when it's like oh yeah, this guy just killed this person in cold blood, and by the way, he's like
I don't know,
He's-
like maybe if you put that on the evil spectrum and like look at the good spectrum, like have you ever talked to like Dev Grew Navy SEALs, like they're highly intelligent, super calm, into the same stuff that this guy might be, but yeah, when asked to, they can be like vicious murderers, like there are those type of people, lots of those type of people walking around.
So maybe we can lead into this with just like I mean, you guys saw some of the reactions online, I assume.
Yes.
Yo,
One of the most disturbing elements of this to me was like how many people weren't even like okay, like this is kind of horrible, but like this is like the end result of like an illegitimate system. Like people were just like straight up like gleeful.
Yeah, people are applauding him.
people
you
are
had, like,
fun,
your
trying to fund.
Taylor Lorenz types, right? Just outright being like, this is awesome.
Yeah, she's kind of like kill the rest of them, which is wild.
And
People are funding his lawyer fees. They're
Yeah.
like apparently ultra wealthy families' lawyer fees. Like, where do I send money to support him? He's probably gotten
Okay,
some,
yeah. So this is
some,
like
a lot of love letters in prison by now.
Yeah, I see some
Like
some-
Menendez
some
style.
chicks simping for
Yeah.
this guy now.
I mean, the chick simping is like a different thing. I logged into Twitter. Like first post I saw on this was like Aubrey Strobel, and it's just like a picture of him like with his like shirt off and the abs, and she's just like, so can I say something? And I was just like, don't do it. Like, God damn it. But this is a common thing for sure. And like I kind of get that at least, but like the morbid thing was this like element of like huge chunk of people, it seems, who are basically like this is just an unmitigated like awesome thing that happened. I'm curious like what you think is going on there.
It's asinine to me because it's not even going to have like the desired effect that they want. Like,
well, I actually empathize with I get what people are feeling. like people are upset with the American healthcare system. Obviously, the system is the problem, very clearly. Like, I think I've boiled down the problem is that we've created these private businesses who are supposed to sort of like fund people's health, but their incentive is not to fund people's health; it's to make profits. So there's a conflict of interest between people's health and their profits. That's the clear conflict. This guy identified the conflict. He had a conclusion or like a decision tree that I felt like was very immature.
Right.
Like he lashed out at the system in a way that I would imagine like a child lashing out in anger, like without reasoning through the decisions. This kid, I feel like is like so smart, and I think he's like, if you want to like fight a war against the system, which he clearly did, he went about it in the wrong way. The way you do it, in my opinion, is that you would like create a competing system, something that gives a viable alternative to people, and then that becomes like a way to fight back. Like Satoshi, for instance, Satoshi created Bitcoin against the Fed or against like fiat currency monetary policy regime, and now look where it got. Like he didn't go kill the Fed chair.
Right.
Okay. So if we're to believe his manifesto is a manifesto and that was like a page, I think he like commented on this. Like he did think about it. And like I think he did kind of like meditate on the idea. Like he was aware that he was sort of like killing like a guy who may have had a family and whatever thing. So I think he had like this kind of zoomed out view on what he was doing, and I understand it. I think it's immoral, but it's also rational in a particular way. It does remind me of the Unabomber, the Kaczynski stuff, right? It's like it's immoral and bad. You also like understand the logic behind it. You understand how he got there, and I understand too. Like we live in this weird world where like we live in this society where people are like, oh, you obviously can't do this stuff. This is immoral. This is bad. But like we say that in a society that literally came into existence by people doing like this very thing.
Agree.
You know, so that's
Like
like kind of the weird
sort of like the laws of the jungle that he's like reverting to is fine. If that's like what you want to revert to, and you think you're gonna win that way, that's fine. He's not. He's not gonna win that way.
No,
like
I
the
mean-
system is gonna continue in the same way that it did, with or without this CEO. Obviously,
Yeah, I didn't get that he like thought through this at all. Like if you follow the manifesto, he's like, you know, we're our own chief executives. We have an obligation to make our lives better. He talks about like rules and the rule of law and the Constitution. I don't give a fuck about the law. Law means nothing. What does matter is the following: the guidance of our own logic and what we learn from those before us to maximize our own well-being, which will then maximize the well-being of our loved ones and community. That's where UNH went wrong. They violated their contract with my mother, with me, and tens of millions of other Americans. This threat to my own health, my family's health, and the health of our country's people requires me to respond with an act of war. I mean, that's like an incredible leap of like psychotic levels.
I don't think so. I think that's like no. Like there's like a look. I'm not saying it's good, but there like is irrationality.
How
like,
that is not linear way of thought at all. Like
Okay, so-
he jumped a few flights of stairs in my mind.
nah. So like he had some tweets about utilitarian philosophy, for example, from what I saw, and utilitarianism is this kind of like interesting philosophy. It's like an interesting philosophy from the perspective. So one of the things about government that's weird is you have to like dehumanize people to an extent, right? You have to make these decisions that you sort of know will result in the loss of life, and then you have to do it from the framework of like, okay, but there was going to be like greater benefit here. Like, so there is this like essence of it in like public policy, for example. Like the perspective of like the Catholic Church on human life, right? Like if you ran government, like it would just not work. Like you could never do anything that would like not kill anybody. Like to run the world requires you to like make decisions that basically like kill people, and there's no way around it. I can see from like a sort of like if you just get to this like sort of raw utilitarian calculation, like where you could make the calculation that like, oh, there are tens of thousands of people or however many it is like dying every year as a result of the system. What is the utility of me like offing this one person and like in spurring like the wheels of change, and how many lives will I save by doing this? I'm not saying that it's right, but like I understand how
No, it's
one
fucking
could get
it's
to
fucking
this.
wrong.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
so
like
dumb.
it's so irrational as even like cause and effect, you know,
It's so dumb.
like
Why is
formula
it-
here.
wh-
I
okay,
kill
so-
the CEO of a company, therefore the healthcare system gets
Because
revolutionized.
the CEO
No,
of this company is just a guy. Like he's not the founder of United Health. He's just a guy who worked for 30 years to like grind his way up higher and doesn't have. He's not Elon.
the
He's
only
just a guy.
output is that all these other CEOs are just going to have enhanced security. Like that's probably like the
That
primary.
is not the only
effect.
output. Like, okay, you guys have to understand that stuff gets done in this country when there become only like this. Our entire government is basically designed to like grind everything to a halt and to prevent anything from happening. Like we have this like bicameral legislature, and like one of the bodies is literally designed to just prevent it. Like the Senate is just designed to just prevent shit from happening. Get these guys in there. They weren't even elected originally, and they're there for like 6 fucking years, and they're just designed to like grind the rest of everything to a halt, right? The only way shit gets done in this country is when it becomes like so freaking consensus and like the public consciousness that like moves the needle, right? So it's like, how do you move that needle of public consciousness to things? Like it sometimes like does require like extreme things to happen that like snap people into like a state. Again, I'm not justifying this, but like
Yeah, I
the
get it.
idea that like you're going to like Eric said, like, oh, just make a competing thing like Satoshi. It's just never going to happen. Like there's no way for it to happen because the entire system exists because of the government. Like the system is fucked because there's this element of regulatory capture. You have these like monopolistic sort of entities that exist in this like cartel. There's like an insurance cartel. There's a fucking cartel with the
Agreed.
American Health Association. There's a cartel
But
with
hold
like the
on.
med schools. Like it's all just cartels.
I agree. You're not wrong. And like what I'm suggesting here is a tall order. It's a tall as fuck order. But like, who better to like solve a tall order than a guy like this? A guy who is valedictorian, Ivy League, rich, well capitalized, like with all the motivations in the world. If you wanted to fight a war against the system, this is one of your best soldiers. And what did he do? He took himself off the board by sacrificing himself. It was stupid. Like if you want to actually fight the war, you build the competing system. And listen, it's not an easy task. It's not an impossible task. The system was created by guys. I have a quote that I pulled up that I don't even want to go into like in my Twitter, but I bookmarked it. It was from Steve Jobs. And Steve Jobs said something along the lines of like, what you really need to learn about life is that life was created by guys just like you, no smarter than you. A bunch of people created this thing that we call life. And what you realize is that you can push against this thing that you call life, and the other side will poke out because you can impact it. This is what I'm talking about, that this guy's missing. And like, yeah, it's a tall order, dude, but it's not impossible. There can be a competing, like, I've lived in other countries. Other countries have multiple healthcare systems, a public one, a private one. Like this can like coexist. There can be an alternative, even if it's not the solution. It can be like something that competes.
Yeah, how do we get to that point where there's broad, like we did, like Obama was supposed to be that thing who just created like an even worse system. Like the idea that like people were going
How
to
do we do it? I mean, like obviously there's gonna be somebody who fucking does it, and
Well,
that's how
I
it
mean,
does it.
somebody's gonna do it.
We just saw-
How
we've been
does
trying to
somebody
do this
create
for
an electric
decades.
car, dude? Like, oh, electric car will never be a thing.
Electric cars are a product of a free market, and the government that we live in allows the free market to exist, which allows like Steve Jobs and Elon to build things, right? Healthcare is not a free market. It is strangled. It is captured by this fucking corrupt regulatory government apparatus. The idea that somebody can innovate their way out of it is is to like fundamentally misunderstand the problem. The problem with shit when it involves the government is that oftentimes it is like a revolutionary spark that actually inspires the change. Like you do have to have this like crazy, like people going over the fucking
Okay,
edge.
so I guess you're agreeing with me that there can be change. It just needed a revolutionary spark first.
Yeah, but like I'm saying, like,
But
this
you also
is the
said there
type
can't
of
be change.
No, I'm saying like it can't be change in the sense that somebody can build a better system. I'm saying like there can be change in the sense that somebody does like ignite a revolution. But that's kind of like what this guy
interesting
was trying to do.
because we just saw our entire government like direction split off into a different like timeline, right? Like
Yeah, we just saw like a hard right turn.
through voting, right?
Yeah.
And you could argue that Trump's attempted assassination triggered Elon Musk with a massive voice and massive capital to like put him over the finish line. And yeah, like electric vehicles are done in the public market, but there's also this like free market of ideas, and he could have probably found a non-violent way to express his ideas, enroll other people who are just as well capitalized, just as good communicators. And we've seen our entire government, the thing that you said can't be moved, be moved through voting. And so now, to your point, it might have taken an attempted assassination to a revolutionary act to like get it going on that timeline. But
Right.
I
And we might be splitting
can't be
hairs here.
convinced.
We might be splitting hairs here on like how these things begin or how you can like catalyze them. Like Ted K, for instance, had some pretty good ideas, went about it in a similar fashion, and nothing fucking stuck with that.
took himself off the board.
He took himself off the board, but and nobody changed anything. Like it doesn't mean it's catalyzed. I get your point that it can be a spark.
Yeah, I mean, like there's this sort of like revolutionary element of the left that exists right now and has existed for a while. Right, you had like the Weather Underground, for example, in the 60s or 70s, whatever, like bombing people. Elements of the BLM riots. We've got stuff happening with Israel. Like there is this like element of the country, and you see this in the reaction online, that like actually does believe in revolution. I'm not necessarily saying that like I agree with his actions. Like I don't. But like if we want to step back and try to like evaluate things at face value and like understand why people do things and look at like how change gets done sometimes, like I don't know, like I kind of see where it's coming from, especially if you consider like, again, like how the freaking country would, like, this country wasn't founded by people protesting. It was founded by guys like throwing tea into the harbor and basically like killing a bunch of people,
Fighting
like,
to the death. Yeah.
So I do think that in like it is written into the sort of the DNA in this nation. Like you see, like read some of the Federalist Papers, and I'm going to misquote this, right? But they basically talk about like when like a government becomes unjust, it is like the duty of the people to basically rise up, right? So it's like, how do you square that, which is written into the DNA of the country, and take a system which like I think like everybody looks at and is like, this is so fucked, right? It hasn't changed for forever, and like what will make a change? Like I sometimes wonder like where.
So
does
Have
that
you guys
change
ever
come
thought
from?
about what the change should look like? Because like I very quickly at the outset identified the conflict of interest.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a private insurance company, their motive is for profit, and then you have the customer whose motive is for health, and then the profit motive and the health motive are conflicting.
Yeah.
So like I think like removing the profit motive seems like a pretty easy
Actually
barrier.
talking to one of our employees that lives in Canada, and I was talking to her. I was like, "So how does the healthcare system work? Like you obviously have this like public option, everyone gets it, but you guys have private insurance too, right?" And she's like, "Yeah." She's like, "Obviously, if you work for a company, it's common that the company also provides private insurance, just like we have in the U.S. In addition, if you're of means, you buy additional private insurance because the public insurance is not good. Like the wait times are long, to see a specialist for your specific thing may not even be available. Like, so Canada seems like a decent example where both exist, and like if you have the means, all of them choose to take on our option. And obviously, both are imperfect. I'm not saying one is better than the other, but there you have a case study where
Yeah.
people choose.
Australia was the same, probably
Yeah.
the same style, and in Australia it was the same, where people like of means chose the private version.
Right.
But I don't know. It seems like at a foundational level, like why does government exist, right? Like it like one of the reasons it should exist is like for the health and safety of its citizens,
Right.
probably. Like
There are these weird perverse incentives inside the healthcare system that are, seem like a tangle that's too tough. Like where doctors bill the insurance companies, sometimes more than they need to, and because that's how they earn revenue, and that increases the cost. There's like all these inefficiencies in there.
Yeah, it's fucked, right? Like so I think it was Blue Shield or Anthem or somebody, like they came under fire after this happened, right? You want to talk about like this not doing anything? It did a lot because Anthem,
anesthesia thing?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
anesthesia thing is like a good example. Like they were basically said they weren't going to cover anesthesia beyond a particular point or something in surgery, and then like after this happened, they were like, no, actually we're good on that. But on the other hand, like there's a legitimate reason why they do that, because there's this like perverse incentive for anesthesiologists to
Overbill.
kind of run up the bill and
Yeah.
overbill on that. And like, why do those people make like they make so much goddamn money? Like these guys, like why do they make that much money? Right. So there are so many problems. Like the idea that we're going to solve the problem by just like having the government do it is just like equally ridiculous to me. Like for me, the problem starts, it's not a problem of the free market, right? Like a lot of people are like, oh, well, we can't have a profit motive in health. And like I get where that comes from, but the problem isn't because there's a profit motive in health, right? Like the problem is because of this like absolutely ridiculously corrupt like regulatory state. Like you have these the government in bed with these corporations. There's not a free market there. When you don't have like a free market, these entities can just exist and just like be terrible actors within the realm of the law, and nobody can come in and disrupt them. They just like it's just like a mafia game. Like one of the most ridiculous things in healthcare is just like that there aren't more doctors, right? They literally control the supply of doctors so that like doctors make more money, right? They don't like have like it's impossible to get into med school because they don't like make more med schools, right? Like it's ridiculous. Like especially in a world where AI exists, like we don't need like doctors to be this like exclusive position that has to go to school for 12 fucking years and like make like 300K a year or whatever. It like just doesn't have to be that way anymore, right? And if you have a larger supply of doctors, then the cost of healthcare goes down. Like if you get rid of like this crazy regulatory apparatus, like you don't have all these like administrators, like the cost of healthcare goes down. Like there are elements of the healthcare system where like we have a purely private market where it's like kind of good, like LASIK kind of comes to mind. I feel like the original Heritage Foundation plan with like the vouchers, which is basically like what Obama modeled Obamacare after, but sort of just bastardized the shit out of it, was like kind of a good idea. And like this kind of fits in with my model of government, which is that like I don't want government running stuff, but like I'm okay with the government kind of being like a piggy bank.
Yeah.
Like I'm okay with school vouchers.
Yeah.
I'm okay with like healthcare vouchers, but like I don't want the government to pick winners and losers. Like I'm kind of okay with them injecting money into the pockets of people who need to partake in the system, but like the system won't have them. Like that's
So you're saying
fine
like,
to me.
hey, your allocation for healthcare as a citizen is X amount this year. You directly pay whoever will provide you this service, and hopefully there's like 20 people competing to do whatever healthcare service you have. Is that what you're saying?
It's
Like
just
you
that
get this voucher.
maybe it costs $200 a month to insure you, Nick or Bonnie, on a risk-adjusted basis per month, with enough for me to make like enough of a profit margin, right? Maybe Eric comes down with some crazy pre-existing condition, and that costs $1,000 a month to insure him, and like that's just not profitable, so nobody takes him under. Like maybe the government just gives him like an $800 voucher to cover that or whatever that is to
I
like kind
see.
of fill that gap. Like that
But there's still
makes sense.
insurance.
To me.
There's still these risk pools. Like
Yeah,
the insurance company still pays the doctor.
The problem you have with like making everything run by the government is it's like analogous to having like price controls on stuff, right? Like you basically like there's a reason why there's shortages like everywhere they have public health care, there are shortages, right? Because you can have stuff be cheap, you can have stuff be quality, and you can have stuff be like available and abundant. But it's like you could choose like two of them. And that's the way it works, and like this all ends up being like, okay, you can have cheap, abundant health. You could have cheap healthcare that is of suitable quality, but there's no abundance.
Right.
Like you have to wait like however many months for basics like surgeries or whatever in particular places. Like, and then like people live under this like idea that we can have this like public-private thing, right? But then what always ends up happening, it seems, is that like the private market, it just ends up like destroying which is why they were like, we have to go to single payer to make it just all under one umbrella. But like I don't necessarily think that's like that seems like an outcome that people like think they desire, but like if we get it, it would also be bad. Like I would rather us try to do like a more free market system first. I would rather us try to like open up the colleges and the educations, like open up the supply of doctors, right?
It seems like that would be the right place to start. Like if you're going to start analyzing it, like what would unleash the supply of insurance companies and doctors and, like even smaller clinics, like what could unleash that and try to remove those barriers?
I push back on the idea that like that change can't happen. I think that's so myopic and just like so pessimistic. Like you're taking this nihilistic view that like this is the way it is and it's the way it will always be, and it's not. It won't always be this way. Like change can happen, and it starts from people like this who like build ideas instead of like assassinating people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see over the next 6 months, like how the conversation evolves. Is it on like a broken healthcare system, or is it just on this guy? Like, does the conversation just focus on this killer and what made him do it? And
we already
psychology?
know how this
Yeah,
going to end
and
now because he took this path. Now the path is going to be talking about this guy, and it's going to be over.
Right.
But like, Stephen, one of your points was like, this is like this system is unbreakable because it's so big, it's so entrenched, and like I think that's myopic. I think that's nihilistic. Like,
No, nihilistic would be like, it's not going to change, so what matters? Why does it matter? I'm saying like it's rational to think that it can change, but that like violence would be the agent for change, right? And I'm not saying I agree with that. I'm just saying like that is rational. I don't think it's a nihilistic argument. I think it's just saying like this is how change happens, like observing just how the system exists.
And I would push back to say that like change happens from creators who like create an alternative system, and like you push back on the EVs, but I think that's a good example. Like oil companies had a lobby just like the insurance companies, like entrenched power that got pushed back, and like you can push back against power. It can't happen.
Do you guys want to go talk about online gambling or dude relationships?
Oh God.
Choose your card.
I like both of them. I mean, the online gambling thing spoke to me a lot, obviously, since that's been my entire life.
Kind of feel like easing into dude relationships would be nice, but
Okay, yeah.
I mean, can we punt the online gambling one till next week? Or do we want to save the dude relationship?
I think the dude relationship one is better for Armand too.
Okay. Yeah, you're probably right. Damn. I want to talk about that one. All right.
Well, I don't know. I'm down for either one.
Online gambling combo would be another similar one to this. Do you want to have like another
I'm okay with that.
heated debate, or do you want to?
No, let's have a debate. Okay. So Sagar, is the last name Enjeti?
Enjeti.
Enjeti. So he's a host of Breaking Points, and he did this little 15-minute diatribe on why online gambling is the next opioid crisis. And I'll try to give like somewhat of a summary of his arguments. His main beef is that there's this massive marketing machine that convinces you that gambling is a game of skill, and you can beat it. And we used to have this like old social contract. We knew these things are bad for you, like cigarettes, maybe alcohol, gambling. People are always going to do it, but like we'll make it not so easy so that people can't go off the rails. And right now, it's just now a few clicks away to gamble. And he has some stats like apparently $1 waged in gambling. For every $1 waged, savings goes down $2. The probability of bankruptcies in certain households is up 25%. And the rates of domestic violence are significantly up. I find that hard how they specifically dial that down to like the cause being gambling. But obviously this is felt more by young men in lower income households than any. And he talks about this kind of philosophical choice. We have this society that wants to have freedom of choice. I think we all kind of like vibe with that a little bit, that you should have the choice. But he argues that like we have that with cigarettes, and it's a more sensible one where we tax them. You can only buy them in certain places. There's no advertising. Cigarette companies can't advertise you, and you can only smoke them in certain places. And we've seen like smoking rates, fall in half from like 40% to 20% or something like that. But with gambling, you have massive advertising. And the way that they make their money is that they make 50% of their revenue from the bottom 3%. So that means is that they, in order to be profitable, in order to be functioning, they have to exploit the biggest addicts of online gambling.
Yeah, what do you mean by bottom 3%? What does that mean? But in terms of like gambling performance, like
gambling performance. Losers. So only 5%, less than 5%, actually have like a consistent profit. And they make 50% of their revenue from the bottom 3%. I mean, the bottom 3% that lose the most, which you probably, I think it's safe to say those are gambling addicts, right?
Yeah. So lose the most, I mean, like probably gamble the most.
Right. And here's where he says the criminal part is in it, where if you're profitable, like at a casino, we've had this happen with, friends. If you win enough, they can just say, you can no longer gamble here anymore.
Oh my God.
And they can do that with these online apps. They take down how much you can wager. If you're a sharp, if you're, an advantage, they call it like an advantage gambler, they'll say you're no longer welcome here in this casino anymore. And same thing, these apps start dialing down how much you can do. And then what they do with the biggest addicts is they give you a VIP host that can message you and text you and say, hey, like, here's like concert tickets, or here's like a gift. Here's a bottle of whiskey.
It sort of narrows their margins on this client a little slightly, but it increases their volumes and increases their net profit.
And they're supposed to have these like kind of like means testing, like, okay, like, can you show us your W-2 wages so we know how much you're able to lose, essentially? Like, if you make $100,000 a year, it's probably not a good sign that like you've lost $400,000 this year, right? Like, I mean, that's probably like a good means test to make sure, to, I guess, comply with some kind of laws. And instead, they're like letting those slip to take advantage of those addicts, and then, they're kind of restricting the people who are actually good at it. So, and he talks about like the parlay bet is like one of the worst odds in the house, and that's what they use. He's like, imagine if they had this super potent cigarette, and then they just marketed it just to the most addicts to cigarettes, and they're using this parlay bet to just hammer into these like bottom 3%.
Okay, so like, where do you want to begin the discussion?
Yeah,
should online gambling exist?
Right, because like, should this even be allowed? First of all,
yeah, we're here now. It's allowed, like in 38 states or something like that, close to 40 states.
Do you believe that it is a skill game?
No.
I mean, DFS is for sure.
I think this game
is
definitely a skill game. Like there are people that can win at it.
Yeah, I mean, like poker is, blackjack is not, roulette is not.
I think like I can't help but make in my mind like the corollaries between online gambling and day trading.
Okay.
Because I think the stats are similar. Like less than 2% or something are winners at this. Most people lose. I feel like the stats are very similar, but it is still a skill game. I feel like Steven is an example of where skill can win.
Right. I think you can buy lottery tickets on your phone now through mobile app. No, I'm sure you can. Like even in California, you can buy like lottery tickets through a mobile app. It's probably not as like advertised as like DraftKings and FanDuel do, but that's an example where like the government lets you play the lottery, and it's for sure a losing game. Like there's no game of skill there, and you used to have to go to like a convenience store to buy them, and now you can just buy them in an app.
I mean, the difference is like the friction,
There's no friction
right? So
and a massive marketing machine.
yeah, like lottery. Look, I think the fact that the government runs lotteries is like one of the most egregiously terrible things about society. Like the government runs this rigged fucking game that is just targeted at poor people that just like incinerates like every like 50 cents of every dollar that they put in, like exploiting their desire to like get out of whatever hole they're in, right? The government should not facilitate that. Like the fact that like we make revenue doing that is it's like insane.
I agree.
It's fucking insane.
It's pretty heinous,
right?
but then what would be more heinous is to allow somebody else to profit off of it, I think. Like to allow a private
No,
entity to.
I think it's more heinous to allow the government to do it because the government is ostensibly supposed to exist for like the public good, right?
Altruistic
We accept that,
means.
like we accept that like corporations may do things that are not inherently good for the public, you know, for the sake of the profit motive. Like at least it's like understandable there. But like the idea that like we created this thing, the government, to make like society work and it just like exploits poor people is insane.
I find like the perfect amount of friction to be Indian casinos. They're always like 35 to 45-minute drive outside of like major cities. And if you want to go gamble, sure you can. You're not even gonna get the best odds at Indian casinos, but like if you want to have like a night of that kind of entertainment, sure, go drive 45 minutes out, drive your ass back, gamble for a few hours. Like that seems to be the right amount of
Do
friction.
you guys believe that like there should be an equivalent amount of friction for like narcotics? Because like narcotics are inherently bad for the populace, but I'm kind of like libertarian in my views, and I want people to have
maybe
the freedom
maybe
to
equivalent
choose.
would be like can I buy cigarettes on Amazon? That would be an equivalent, right? Like can I just prime order a rack of marbles?
I mean, narcotics have like inherent friction because they're anchored in the physical world. The problem with online gambling is it is not anchored in the physical world, and things that slip into the digital realm have like very low friction. And even right now, it's like, oh my God, like you could just do this on your phone. In like 30 years from now, when you have like a chip in your fucking brain, like the idea that you have to like open your phone and log into stuff, you're just going to think and make a bet. Like what happens in a world where you can just think and just make a bet and make like a 12-team parlay? There's no friction at all.
So hold on, let's go back to the stats that Nick mentioned, because like I think the probably the vast majority of folks use this vice in a way that's like not particularly harmful. I would imagine.
Well, it sounds like 97% potentially is like the max amount of people who could use it, that it's not particularly harmful. I mean, we have friends, mutual friends, like, I don't know, I gambled like something like, I don't know, 50, 60 grand last year, but like I kind of made 50, 60 grand back. Like it's kind of my form of like relatively cheap entertainment.
Right, and it becomes cheap entertainment because if you just lose the vig, which is like your natural odds, you lose 10%, but then you get some benefit of enjoying the entertainment more because
Yeah,
that's
your
like
thing.
that's
Yeah.
what you're doing. Like that's sort of the point of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's reasonable. I think that's okay. It's the people that like spiral out of control with it, right? That we're worried about.
Yeah.
But then you need regs. Like this is like the problem with having like any sort of social safety net, right? Like we see this problem with health insurance, right? The second the government starts providing health insurance, like now the government has a vested interest in telling you what to eat or what to not eat, because like your bad eating decisions become something that is like on the public dime. If you have a welfare system and like a bankruptcy system and like you fucking blow your entire net worth, gambling, or maybe you like have run up some debts to a bookie and you got to rob a store or something, like that becomes like a public problem. And then the government has like a vested interest and regulate. So this all like kind of gets tied in. Like if we live in this like uber libertarian state where there's no social safety net and the government does nothing, and if you make bad choices, we just let you die on the sidewalk as a society, and we're okay with that, then it's like, all right, fine, just gamble on the internet on your 15 team parlays. But once society is like, no, we have to have like a safety net and we have to have government health insurance, we have to have like all this stuff, then now it's like, no, we can't as a society let you blow your money, because now I have to subsidize your addicted ass and all the shit that you do, and now I have to and that's how all this stuff creeps in, because now it's like, oh, we gotta get your W-2, and then we gotta be like, well, you can't bet more than this much, but it's also like logical, like it does make sense that we have to do that.
I agree. And then I'm wondering like what guardrails you set on other forms of gambling that like I outlined before, day trading, shit coins and stuff. It ends up being the same thing.
So day trading is different because like you can, like, I can make the case that like markets require speculators, because speculators sort of like provide liquidity and price discovery to an extent, right? There is no such equivalent for you. Like you don't have to like bet on the Alabama football game. Like you provide no value to the market or anything by like betting or like by playing roulette is it probably even a better example. Like you don't provide any sort of benefit to society or any markets or anything that benefits anybody by logging on your phone and like spinning a digital
or whatever
roulette wheel. Whereas like I could say that like, well, you're day trading like NASDAQ. Well,
but like NASDAQ is an interesting one to talk about because it's different specifically from straight meme coins, shit coins, which also provide no value.
The meme coin one is like interesting because you could argue that like, oh, I'm speculating on meme coins, I'm providing liquidity, but then it's like, well, providing liquidity for what? And then like you can make some meta argument about, oh, meme coins are this like speculative attention markets, the marketplace of the future stuff. But like that's obviously like meme coins are obviously more analogous to gambling than day trading NASDAQ futures, and I think people would agree with that. I think the meme coin debate is interesting. Like in some sense, like I think the fact that crypto is so fucking hard to use is like actually like good.
That's like
because it provides
that's the
natural
friction.
Yeah, it's like
it's the equivalent of you having to drive to the Indian casino to place a bet.
Right.
Like you just sit there for like 40 minutes trying to figure out how to onboard money and bridge, and that actually is good in the sense that like if you could actually just like think in your brain, deposit, and then just bet on like the squirrel coin, like that's probably very bad. Like a world where like we remove all those barriers in crypto and like there's like just nothing like disintermediating your funds and like betting on a coin.
Yeah, I mean, you make a good point. Like day trading, there's a free market, and what I think Sagar's arguing is that this is not a free market. Like False mentions, with day trading, does the house restrict you if you're successful? That would, to me, be the hallmarks of not a free market, where ideally, if you are successful, you could gamble unlimited amounts of money. You would move the lines and whatnot. Still,
I mean, like a prop firm might restrict you if you're successful if they're a shitty prop firm, right? But prop firms are like,
they're lending you money. It's different.
Yeah, they're not even lending you money. They're giving you like fake money to trade and kind of paying you out on it. That's a weird, sketchy ass business, right? But like if you go to Interactive Brokers, right? Interactive Brokers doesn't shut down your account like if you're successful at day trading, because you're not losing money to them. Like they're making fees on your volume. You're just taking money from the market. They're not shutting you down.
Sports betting works. Like if I don't understand why they would need to restrict the top 5%, because like isn't for every bet they like move the line such that like by the time the game is going, there's essentially like equal money on both sides, right?
No,
or is it,
I think
that's a misunderstanding.
Okay.
A lot of books will take like, I think during the Super Bowl, like books will just take outright risk. They'll just be like, we know the public's going to bet here. We think the line's here. We're just going to take that gap and over
on
all
top
the
of their
Super Bowls.
vig.
Yeah, and I think they will do that. Also, like if you have like like if you're a sports book, right, and you are a relatively small book and you're getting like $1 million a day on games or something, right? If $950,000 of that $1 million is sharp money flow, you're gonna lose your ass because they're probably beat the spread and you go out of business, right? Like it's just a very different ballgame. So they have to
Right.
restrict you, otherwise they wouldn't exist. But that is like, I think that's one of the most interesting parts of like Sagar's argument is this idea that like, okay, sure, let's have a free marketplace where you can do what you want, but that also means that like you can't just ban people for beating you. And his point is correct. Like these companies only exist because they are able to legally isolate the people that beat them, and they basically exist by like exploiting the people at the bottom rung of the ladder.
He mentioned something interesting. He said that people started getting cues that the worst losers were getting all these like free gifts and incentives and bonuses and all this kind of thing, and people found out how to like pattern match their behavior. For example, using like a bot to open up the app like 30 times a day, and that like triggers the algorithm like, oh, this motherfucker's an addict. Like, why don't we keep feeding them incentives and gifts? And so they're using it to their advantage. It'd be like, if I just have this bot open it up 300 times a day, like
just open up the app at like 3 a.m.
Yeah,
and then their algo is like, oh, this is a fucking sicko.
This guy's gonna get it. So I mean, they obviously do. You know,
It's like I was actually thinking about this the other day because I've been bleeding Citadel of a couple $1,000s a week for like a long time.
Attaboy.
And I was thinking like, what if they shut me down like they do like a card counter? Like I would just go full cryptard. Like
Yeah.
I would be so crypto aligned. But I feel like Citadel makes so much fucking money. They don't care about my little bleeding. They don't give a fuck.
So okay, so let me try to summarize where maybe I think we're at, which is like, okay, if there's no friction, like a mobile app, maybe there is like this means test, like you upload your W-2, sounds authoritarian, but like, here's how much I'm making a year, and there's some like arbitrary number. It's like, okay, well, you're allowed to lose up to like 40% of your earnings that year, so that's your cap, and we cap you out after you lose 40% of your W-2. There was even a lawsuit he mentions of a wife of a husband who like lost all their savings plus some, and she sued them saying you didn't follow the rules you said you follow. Like, you
Did
kind
she
of
win?
I think it's still in court. I don't remember like what the result was, but
That would be pretty ridiculous if they
yeah.
won.
So is it just more if there's no
Yeah, in
friction,
such
then follow
cases.
these like rules, whatever they are, to limit people from losing their entire like salary in a year, and maybe if you have to drive to like Vegas or any casino, we don't care what your W-2 is. Like, there's enough friction. Gamble as much money as you have
Yeah,
on hand.
I like that.
I kind of makes sense. Like, I wonder if the bigger threat is the bigger risk to society is more than just that 3%. Like, if it was just 3%, you're like, wow, is the harm on society that much? But if you see like bankruptcies going up, household savings like on a whole taking a hit, yeah, there's got to be like a deeper dive in the data where like maybe the bottom 50% are actually suffering, not losing their saving, not losing their whole net worth, but losing, compounding in the other way. Just losing.
Do you guys know people who just like kind of like sports betting addicts?
I know a
What's
guy.
that look like, by the
I
way?
know a guy I grew up with who I like talked to later in life, and he's just like, yeah, so I had a problem. I had a problem with this, and this was like a real deal. And that's the only guy I know that like had an issue with that, but he was like, he lost everything.
Oh, okay. I mean, like, that's
And, like,
one way to spot
losses,
them. I don't know how to spot them in the middle of it. Like, I have friends who gamble on sports all the time, or open up their laptop and fucking throw some money at the roulette table for like 30 minutes on their laptop, and you're like, okay, I can keep my eye on you. Like,
Yeah, that's,
seems like
Whenever I
boundary.
see somebody like open up like a digital roulette wheel and start gambling, I'm like,
Yeah, it's not a good
that's
sign.
Like, yeah, that's rough.
But like, if I would have known you during your poker days, I'd be like, dude, you're gambling online the whole time.
I mean, that's what the sports betting's always been funny to me. Like, I never got addicted to sports betting because it's like, okay, so what, I'm gonna put like $5,000 down on a game and I'm gonna sit there for 3.5 hours to see what happens. Like I could lose that in one hand.
That's the
And
beauty.
you might win $4,000. Yeah.
That's the beauty of betting sports in
I could lose that
Vegas.
in 1 second, man. Like,
That's the
so-
beauty of it. It's like it like draws out your losses.
Ugh.
Like you just like takes a lot of
I
time.
mean, I saw when I was in Bangkok, I think I had like Bloomberg or CNBC on, and Vlad Tenev was up on the screen.
Robin Hood.
Yeah, and he said something like, "Hey, I think the interviewer asked him like, you plan on getting on sports betting at some time soon?"
That's crazy to think. I never thought about that.
And
but
and
why not? Yeah.
He said like not immediately, but kind of like why not?
Yeah, like why wouldn't all the brokerage firms, like Coinbase included, Robinhood, Charles Schwab, all of them also have digital roulette wheels and all this shit included? Like if it's legal, why not?
And let's be honest, like the Robinhood options traders of 2020, 2021 are just essentially gamblers. Like,
Yes.
so as a for-profit company, you might just give them what they want.
Ugh.
And Polymarket is going to start dabbling in
Sure. Why
probably
not?
more sports betting. I mean, I think they already are.
So I agree with you guys that we should put some like rail guards on this.
Yeah, some serious ones. I mean, it's like interesting to me how my perspective on this has evolved because I obviously grew up playing online poker, and when I was young, like I thought online poker was like amazing because from my perspective, it was like, oh, this is like the only thing in the world when I'm 18 that allows me to me it was like, oh, it's like a meritocracy. Like everything else I looked at in the world, it was like, oh, I gotta go into this job and like just rise through the ranks and play politics and like wait my turn. But like I loved poker because it was just like it didn't care like how old I was, it didn't care like whether I was a guy or a girl or what color my skin was. Anything, it just like didn't matter. It was just like, just what are the decisions you make and are they good or are they bad, and like what is the cumulative result of all your decisions. And that was like extremely attractive to me. And online poker was illegal in the US like the whole time I was playing it, and I was always like so upset about this. And I used to be like really libertarian. Like after I went through like my socialist phase, I like went to the other freaking extreme. And I was just like, oh, this is so ridiculous. Like all drugs should be legal and everybody should just be able to gamble at home. And now like I think that stuff is like not a good idea.
You know, another interesting aspect of this is like we kind of have this like generation of like young men that are just like a tinderbox for this
Yeah,
kind of thing. Like
for sure.
you have a whole generation, let's call it like younger millennials and Gen Z, full financial nihilism. Like you look at like their income levels coming out of like, let's say college age to cost of living, or more importantly, maybe just cost to buy a home as like a good benchmark.
Yeah, the amount of working years it takes to buy a home.
Right. And so just pure there, it almost seems like it's already out of reach. I mean, I know, you know, people my age, slightly younger that are just like, you know, I know how much they make, and it's like, yeah, to buy a home here was like, I don't know, if I hit 100x on a on a meme coin, yeah, then maybe I'll have a chance, but otherwise probably
Right, and these
Probably
guys
not.
that you're talking about are all like high earners.
they're
Like,
smart.
Yeah.
And they make six figures plus,
Right.
and they're doing good. They're doing the things
Yeah.
they should. They put the money in their 401k. Like they're not dumb. They're not frivolous with their money. And so you just have this tinderbox. Was it Professor Galloway, Scott Galloway? He kind of
Yeah.
has this whole pitch on like the problems that this specific cohort of young men face, and it's just like perfect fire, like a spark to the tinder that gets set.
Oh, it's so true because like it's never been more important to be like rich as a man. Well, I don't want to say never, but like it's been many decades since like it was like less important to be like really, really rich as like a man, because like society is such where you have this element of hypergamy where
Yes.
like
I
women
was gonna bring that
are coming up, and people are getting married less, so like the dating pool is like warped because there's like more women in it, and women only date in one way, which means that like if you have multiple women kind of going after like the same dating pool, so like it just makes logical sense to like gamble to get in that dating pool, because otherwise like why the fuck does it matter?
And how else am I going to get there?
Yeah, and like you can't afford things. You can't afford houses. Look, we've de-emphasized like having families and just the role of just like a man within the family. Like, you understand why people are just like, yeah, fuck it, we ball.
Yeah, and I mean, add on to that. What was Jimmy mentioning before we started? He said that Gen Z survey where they, like, in Gen Z's mind, I imagine they surveyed men and women, thinking that the average household income was like $500,000 a year, because like, and maybe it's from just like seeing social media. I mean, we did that one segment where
It was I think the actual thing was like, what does it take to be rich?
oh, was it? That was it?
Yeah.
And I think we did a segment back where we showed like a series of women. It was like, how much do you think you know, someone who's worthy of being your husband, how much you have to make? And it was like obscene amounts of money. And so, you know, maybe it's just like this reflection of like social media coming back. I'm like, well, obviously we need this much because these are the things that I want in my life, and this is how much we need to make. And it seems like everyone else is making this from what I can tell on my phone. And yeah, it just like fuels this even more.
Fourth turning shit.
Yeah.
Fourth turning is turning though. Like I feel like
I wasn't sure which president was gonna shove the fourth turning even more. Like, was it gonna be Kamala, or just like the last hope of it, like before it crumbles?
we need like one manipulation leg higher.
Yeah, exactly. And then like Trump's like shuffle the whole deck.
No,
you know,
they're both fourth turning presidents. Like, the
Yeah.
fourth turning is like the battle for the competing visions, and one of those wins. Right, so
Yeah,
we
but-
just saw like the good vision win. I think,
And
hope.
like we're
One of them,
seeing
yeah.
we're seeing it like on a global scale. Malay, like Argentina's turning around, dude. Argentina's turning around from an investment standpoint, an inflation standpoint. Like the fourth turning, I think might have seen its bottom.
yeah.
that'd be great.
You are seeing, like, I feel like you are seeing like cultural shifts too. Like, there's been like a big cultural shift, like, to the right. Not even necessarily like purely religious, but just like,
The great unwokening.
yeah, or just people being like, oh, you should be in shape, or, you know, like these like even the thing that people were talking about with like Luigi, where he had this like obsession with like the modern architecture, and how like that's like one of the funniest like kind of like this guy's like online, because that's like a thing you see like in my Twitter sphere. You see these
Hold on.
threads on how
I don't know this one.
modern architecture
What
like
is this?
demoralizes you. This is like a thing like Armand talks about a lot.
What is this? I don't know of it.
I don't know.
Oh
Tucker
my
had a
God.
take on it.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, exactly. There's like a
modern
whole episode
architecture
on
is made
Tucker.
to like demoralize you, and
It's demonic. It's made to demoralize you.
Okay.
But no, it's like all this shit. It's like people like kind of espouse and believe this shit. You've seen like amongst women, there's like a trad wife movement. On TikTok. So like you are seeing like these, but like on the left, like I also think like, you're seeing like this kind of push to. There's like a push to violence in a lot of ways. Like, people are like, okay, they're okay with like Luigi, they're okay with Trump getting shot, they're okay with like a whole litany of stuff that is like kind of violent. So like this is all fourth turning shit, I would argue. I don't know how many more years of it we have left, but like the good news is like we have like a golden age
I think we bottomed.
yeah.
coming up ahead. So like I think we get to live the bulk of our lives in like really good times from this point out, after a little bit of turbulence, and
Blessed are we.
that's great, because couldn't come at a better time for us,
Yeah.
honestly.
Stay strong out there, friends.
Yeah, it's gonna be okay.
All right, guys. Well, that was fun. I like that group of topics. I don't know why. I like good money topics. I like tech topics that are a little out of the deep end, but we enjoy talking about anyway.
It was good. It was one of my favorite episodes. I think
good-
we've
good
done.
little
It flowed
potpourri.
well. It was good stuff there.
Yeah.
We have a good one for next week too.
Oh yeah, the
That we
dude
take-
relationships.
Yeah, dude
yeah.
relationships.
I like that
That's
one.
gonna be a good one.
All right, I think that one's good to save for Armand. Yeah, so we'll be back next week, next Wednesday at 5 p.m. PST. Join us on YouTube. Thanks for everyone who's been joining us,
It's gonna
and
be
you see it in the stats.
it's
You've
gonna
been
be my
sticking.
first podcast as a 40-year-old.
Oh, that's right. I can't wait to
know.
celebrate with you, my friend.
Depressing.
You don't even know what we're doing.
I don't.
Yeah, it's great.
I don't.
I like
I
having
have
that
like
like
a-
knowledge superiority over you right now.
I have like a non-surprise.
I have like 48 hours
birthday
before that knowledge
coming.
superiority.
What's happening?
Bring a parka.
throw random like things at it. Just to throw scent off. All right, guys. Well, that was fun. If you haven't liked the video already, do it. Yeah, leave a comment on what you thought the video was like. Give us feedback. And Armand, we miss you. We'll see you back next week, and see you guys next week. Thank you.
Later,
See ya.
everybody.